Story 1. My brother tricked my fiancée on the day of our wedding into believing I cheated. They believed him. But 3 years later, my sister called me with news that changed everything. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Sup, Reddit. So this happened a few years back, but I'm finally ready to talk about it. Fair warning, this gets wild and honestly sounds like something straight out of a movie, but I swear this actually happened to me. You know how they say family is everything? Yeah, well, sometimes family's the one holding the knife behind your back. My brother taught me that lesson the hard way. This whole mess started way before I, 29 male, even met my ex-fiancée Candace. It started with my brother Zach and his ex-girlfriend Haley. Now Zach wasn't just dating this girl. Dude was straight up obsessed. Like, we're talking fatal attraction level stuff here. He'd been with Haley for 3 years and was already planning their whole future together. Had the ring picked out. Our whole family knew about it because he wouldn't shut up about how perfect she was. Haley was decent looking, I guess, but nothing special to me. Zach thought she was God's gift to Earth, though. The guy would literally plan his weekends around her work schedule and got genuinely upset if she wanted to hang out with her girlfriends instead of him. Looking back, Haley never seemed as into him as he was into her. During family dinners, she'd be polite but distant. She'd check her phone constantly and always had some excuse to leave early. Zach would make these grand romantic gestures, surprise trips, expensive jewelry, elaborate date nights, and she'd just seem bored. But Zach was blind to it all. The one person who saw through this whole thing was my sister Lisa. She's 2 years younger than me, works as a nurse at the county hospital, and has always been the most level-headed person in our family. Lisa knew it from day one, said there was something fake about her, like she was always performing instead of just being herself. That girl is playing Zach like a fiddle, Lisa told me once. And when she's done with him, it's going to get ugly. Then came the family barbecue from hell. This was supposed to be our annual 4th of July thing. Whole extended family, neighbors, the usual crowd. Zach had been hyping it up for weeks because he was planning to propose. Everything was going normal at first. Uncle Jim was cracking bad dad jokes, Cousin Dave was showing off on the volleyball court, and Zach was being his usual over-the-top self. Then that moment came. Suddenly, when the noise started fading, Zach got on one knee in front of everyone. As we all watched waiting for Haley's word, she did something unexpected. She just snapped. She just stood up and just dropped this bomb on everyone. I can't do this. I don't love you, Zach. I never have. I've been trying to force it because you're a good guy, but I can't marry someone when I have feelings for someone else. The whole backyard went dead silent. Even the neighbor's dog stopped barking. Zach just stared at her like she'd spoken in a foreign language. Then she looked directly at me and said the words that would basically ruin my life. I'm in love with your brother. I had no idea what to say. We'd only ever had polite small talk at family events. That's it. But Zach? Dude completely lost his mind. Started yelling about how I must have been sneaking around behind his back, how I was a backstabbing piece of shit, all this crazy stuff. I tried to explain that I had literally no idea Haley felt this way, that I'd never encouraged it, never even thought about her like that. Didn't matter. In his head, I'd somehow stolen his girl, and that was that. Haley tried to calm things down, explaining that it wasn't anything I'd done, that she'd just developed feelings over time. But Zach wasn't hearing any of it. He stormed out, tires screeching, the whole dramatic exit. Haley left right after him, crying and apologizing to everyone. Lisa was the only one who came up to me afterward. "This isn't your fault," she said. "That girl was never going to marry him, and deep down he knows it. That should have been the end of it, right?" Girl realizes she's not into her boyfriend, makes a messy confession. Everyone moves on with their lives. But Zach? This dude turned it into his personal mission to destroy me. So here's where things get really messed up. After Haley's confession, I genuinely thought Zach would cool off after a few days. We'd had fights before. What brothers haven't? And he'd always gotten over it. First thing Zach did was blow up Haley's phone for about a week straight. She showed me some of the texts later. Yeah, she kept trying to contact me after the barbecue thing, but I shut that down real quick. This dude was sending her like 30 messages a day. Everything from begging her to come back to calling her every name in the book. Real nice guy behavior, you know? When Haley finally blocked him, that's when he turned his attention to me. At first, it was just your typical sibling revenge stuff. He'd accidentally eat food I'd left in my parents' fridge when I visited. He'd conveniently forget to pass along messages when people called the house looking for me. Small, petty garbage that I mostly ignored. But then he started getting creative, and that's when I should have known this wasn't going to blow over. He went after my social circle first. He'd leave passive-aggressive comments on my posts. Stuff like, wow, that's funny coming from you, or interesting take from someone who... Then he'd delete them before I could screenshot. My best friend Tom started acting weird around me first. We'd been tight since high school, played on the same intramural basketball team in college, hung out every weekend, the whole deal. Suddenly Tom's acting all distant, giving me one-word answers, declining invites to hang out. I finally cornered him and asked what his problem was. Turns out Zach had been feeding him this story about how I'd been talking trash about him behind his back for years. Tom believed it because, and I quote, "Why would your own brother lie about something like that?" This became Zach's signature move. He'd tell people I'd said something awful about them, always with just enough specific details to make it believable. None of it was true, but Zach knew exactly what buttons to push with each person. The work thing was what really got to me, though. I was working at this small tech company right out of college, maybe 30 employees total. Great job, good pay, cool boss who treated everyone like adults. I was actually up for a promotion to team lead, which would have been huge for a guy only 2 years out of school. Then weird stuff started happening. My boss mentioned in passing that he'd heard I was interviewing at other companies. I wasn't. A coworker asked me why I'd told people the company was poorly managed and heading for bankruptcy. I never said that. It took me months to figure out that Zach had been calling the office, pretending to be different people. A recruiter who'd spoken with me, a friend who was concerned about things I'd said, even a fake client who claimed I'd been unprofessional. This sociopath was literally creating fake identities to sabotage my career. The promotion went to someone else. My boss started treating me differently. The whole office vibe changed, and I couldn't figure out why everyone suddenly thought I was this arrogant, disloyal employee who talked trash about the company. When I confronted Zach about it, he played dumb. "I don't know what you're talking about, man. Maybe people are just seeing the real you now," with this smug smile that made me want to punch him in his stupid face. I tried going to my parents, thinking they'd talk some sense into him. Big mistake. They'd already bought into his narrative that I was this manipulative person who'd stolen his girlfriend and was now playing victim. Mom actually said, "Well, honey, maybe this is karma for what you did to Haley's relationship." What I did? I literally didn't do anything except exist in the same family as a girl who had feelings I didn't ask for and didn't want. But according to my parents, Zach was the victim here. I was just causing drama and needed to take responsibility for my actions. The only person who saw through Zach's bullshit was Lisa. She'd call me after family dinners where Zach would put on his victim act, telling me not to listen to their crap. She tried to defend me to our parents, but they'd already made up their minds. Okay, guys, this is where the story really goes off the rails. This is where Zach's revenge went from petty sibling rivalry to straight-up psychotic. I met Candace about 2 years after the Haley disaster. By then, I'd basically written off my relationship with Zach and was trying to move on with my life. I'd gotten a new job at a different company. The old one never really recovered from all Zach's sabotage, moved to my own apartment across town, and was actually doing pretty well for myself. She was funny, smart, had this dry sense of humor that matched mine perfectly. She grew up in a small town about an hour outside the city, came from this big Irish family where everyone talked over each other and had opinions about everything. Complete opposite of my family's passive-aggressive nonsense. We dated for about a year and a half before I proposed. She said yes before I even finished the question. We both had stable jobs, similar life goals. It felt right. Planning the wedding was actually fun, which everyone told us was rare. Candace's family welcomed me immediately. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of a real family again. My parents were supportive too, which surprised me. They seemed genuinely happy that I'd found someone. Lisa was thrilled for me. She loved Candace from the moment they met, said it was obvious how happy we made each other. She helped with wedding planning, threw Candace a bridal shower, even stood up as one of my groomsmen since we were doing a mixed wedding party. Having her support meant everything to me. Zach, on the other hand, had been suspiciously quiet during the whole engagement period. He showed up to family dinners when I brought Candace around, made polite conversation, even congratulated us when we announced the wedding date. I should have known something was up. This was way too normal for him. But I was happy, you know. I wanted to believe that maybe Zach had finally moved on, found some peace, and decided to let the Haley thing go. The wedding was set for a Saturday in June at this venue about 20 minutes outside town. Nothing too crazy, maybe 80 people, outdoor ceremony, reception in the same building. Candace wanted something simple and elegant, and honestly, I would have married her in a gas station bathroom if that's what she wanted. We decided to keep it traditional, not seeing each other the night before the wedding. Candace was staying at her parents' house with her bridesmaids, and I was supposed to be having some bachelor party that my friends had planned. Except I wasn't really feeling the whole party scene. I was nervous, excited, just wanted some quiet time to think about everything. So instead of hitting up bars with the guys, I got a room at this hotel near the venue. Told everyone I just wanted to chill out, watch some TV, get a good night's sleep before the big day. My friends respected it, even turned off my phone around 9 p.m. because I didn't want any distractions. By the time I woke up the next morning, got dressed, and headed to the venue, it was already over. I just didn't know it yet. This is the hardest part of the story to write. Even now, years later, thinking about that day makes me feel sick. I showed up to the venue about 2 hours before the ceremony was supposed to start. I was actually in a great mood, thinking about how in a few hours I'd be married to the love of my life. The parking lot should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Way too many cars for that early in the day, and I could see people standing around in groups, talking in those hushed, serious voices that usually means something bad had happened. I walked into the venue. The decorations were still up. The flowers were in place, but there was this atmosphere of, I don't even know how to describe it, like walking into a your own funeral. Candace's maid of honor, Maria, saw me first. The look on her face was pure disgust. Not sadness, not disappointment, disgust. She walked right up to me and slapped me across the face, hard enough that my ears rang. "How could you do this to her? How could you do this to Candace?" she screamed. Everyone in the room turned to stare at us. Candace's family, my groomsmen, random guests who'd already arrived, all of them looking at me like I was some kind of monster. I had no idea what she was talking about. I asked where Candace was, said I needed to talk to her, figure out what was going on. Maria laughed, this bitter, angry sound that made my skin crawl. "She's gone, you piece of trash. She's gone, and she's never coming back. She knows what you did." That's when Zach stepped out of the crowd. My own brother, wearing his groomsman tux, looking like he was attending my execution instead of my wedding. And he had this satisfied expression on his face. "I'm sorry, man," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I didn't want to be the one to tell her, but I couldn't let her marry you without knowing the truth." He pulled out his phone and started showing people photos. I couldn't see them from where I was standing, but I could see everyone's reactions. Shock, disgust, anger. Whatever Zach was showing them, it was convincing as hell. "This is Jessica," Zach announced to the room. "She came forward because she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. She's been seeing my brother for 4 months, including last night." A woman stepped forward from the back of the room. Mid-20s, blonde hair, wearing a dress that was way too formal for someone who was supposedly just dropping by to confess an affair. She looked nervous as hell, kept glancing at Zach like she was waiting for him to tell her what to say next. But she played her part perfectly. "I'm so sorry," she said, "and I'll give her credit." She sounded genuinely upset. "I never meant for it to go this far. He told me he was going to call off the wedding, that he was going to leave her for me. When I found out he was still going through with it, I couldn't stay quiet. I tried to speak, tried to explain that I'd never seen this woman before in my life, but nobody wanted to hear it." Zach showed them text messages between me and Jessica, intimate photos that supposedly proved we'd been together, even a video that he claimed showed me and her together the previous night. The worst part was watching my own parents just stand there in silence. They didn't defend me, didn't question Zach's story, didn't even look like they were surprised. My mom actually nodded along when Zach explained how disappointed he was to have to expose his own brother. I kept asking to see this supposed evidence, demanding that someone show me these photos and messages that supposedly proved I was cheating. But Zach played it perfectly. He said he'd already shown everything to Candace and her family, that they'd seen enough, that there was no point in humiliating me further by making it public. Someone mentioned calling Candace, trying to get her to come back so we could work this out. That's when Zach dropped the final bomb. She doesn't want to see him. She made that very clear. She said if he tries to contact her, she'll call the police. The room went completely silent after that. Even I didn't know what to say. The woman I was supposed to marry in less than 2 hours thought I was a cheating scumbag. I stood there in my tux, in front of all our friends and family, and watched my entire life crumble. The wedding was off. Candace was gone. Everyone I cared about thought I was a lying, cheating piece of garbage. And my own brother was the one holding the match that burned it all down. I didn't even fight it at that point. What was the point? Nobody was going to believe me over the evidence Zach had manufactured. Nobody was going to take my word over the testimony of his mystery woman. The damage was done. I walked out of that venue and drove straight home. Didn't talk to anyone, didn't try to explain myself, didn't even take off the tux. Just sat in my apartment and stared at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. My phone started ringing around dinner time. Candace's number. For a split second, I thought maybe she'd realized this was all a setup, that she wanted to hear my side of the story. I answered on the first ring. "Don't ever contact me again," she said. Her voice was cold, completely different from the woman I'd fallen in love with. "If you call me, if you text me, if you come to my house or my work, I will call the police. We're done. Forever." She hung up before I could say a word. But then Zach decided to show up. He showed up at my apartment around midnight, still wearing his tux, looking like he'd just won the lottery. I opened the door. He smiled at me. Actually smiled. "How's it feel?" he asked. That's when something inside me snapped. All the years of his petty revenge, all the lies, all the manipulation, it all came rushing back at once. I grabbed him by his shirt collar and shoved him against the hallway wall. "You destroyed my life," I said through gritted teeth. "You destroyed my life over some girl who never even wanted you." Zach laughed while I was choking him against the wall. "And I'd do it again," he said. "You took everything from me. Haley, my future, my happiness. So I took yours. Fair trade." I wanted to beat the living hell out of him right there. I wanted to smash his face into the wall until he took it all back, until he admitted what he'd done to everyone who'd believed his lies. But I knew that's exactly what he wanted, for me to prove I was the violent, unstable person he'd painted me as. So I opened my door and shoved him out. He walked away whistling like he'd just had the best day of his life. Now here's the thing. I got stupid. I should have recorded that conversation, but anger got me. I wasn't thinking straight and all I saw was red. So I did one thing which seemed like the best solution at that time. I walked away and moved on. I spent the next 3 years trying to rebuild my life, and mostly succeeding. Got a better job, moved to a different city. I was doing okay. The only person from my family I stayed in contact with was Lisa. She'd moved out to Denver for work, but we talked every few weeks. She never bought into Zach's version of events, and she kept me updated on the family drama I was missing. According to Lisa, Zach and Candace had gotten together officially about 6 months after my ruined wedding. Yup, you heard that right. They moved in together, got married within a year, had a kid pretty quickly after that. From the outside, it looked like the perfect family. Zach had gotten everything he wanted, and Candace seemed happy with her choice. But Lisa saw through it from day one. "He doesn't love her," she told me during one of our calls. "He just loves that he won. The second the novelty wears off, this whole thing is going to implode." She was right. Zach wasn't the devoted, loving husband. Once he had her locked down, he basically stopped trying. He'd work late constantly, blow off family events, forget anniversaries and birthdays. Classic behavior of someone who was only interested in the chase, not the actual relationship. Lisa started getting weird phone calls from Candace, asking if Zach's behavior was normal, if he'd always been so distant and selfish. Lisa tried to stay neutral at first, but it was getting harder to ignore the obvious problems in their marriage. Then last month, she called me with news that changed everything. "It's all falling apart," she said. "Candace found out Zach was cheating. She's filing for divorce and Zach just ran away to God knows where. But you're never going to believe who he was cheating with. Jessica, the same woman who'd helped Zach frame me at my wedding, had been sleeping with him behind Candace's back for years, possibly even before my wedding day. The irony was so perfect. The same woman Zach had used to destroy my relationship had been destroying his the entire time. But here's where it gets interesting. When Candace confronted Jessica, expecting her to deny everything or at least show some shame, Jessica broke down and confessed everything. Not just the affair, everything. The fake photos, the staged text messages, the video, the whole elaborate setup Zach had orchestrated to ruin my wedding. Lisa had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. When Candace called her, sobbing and asking for my contact information, Lisa was ready. "I need to see him," Candace had told Lisa. "I need to apologize. I need to make this right somehow." That's when I realized what I needed to do. "I've got a plan," I told Lisa. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Lisa asked. "I'm thinking it's time for some justice," I said. "I'm in," she said immediately. "Whatever you need me to do." I had Lisa reach out to Jessica through a mutual friend, posing as someone who just wanted to understand what had happened. We set up a meeting at a coffee shop in Denver, with Lisa claiming she was trying to help Candace process everything and needed to hear Jessica's side of the story. I flew out to Denver the next week. Lisa had briefed me on exactly how to play this. Sympathetic, Not accusatory, just a brother trying to understand why his family had fallen apart. Jessica was a mess when we met her. She'd obviously been crying, looked like she hadn't slept in days. The guilt was eating her alive, and it was written all over her face. Lisa played it perfectly, acting like the concerned sister who just wanted to help everyone heal from this tragedy. She asked Jessica to walk us through exactly what had happened, claiming it would help Candace understand how things had gone so wrong. Jessica spilled everything. How Zach had approached her 8 months before my wedding, offering to pay her $5,000 to help him teach his brother a lesson. How they'd staged all the photos and text messages over the course of several weeks. How he had coached her on exactly what to say and when to say it. But the real bomb came when she admitted that she and Zach had been hooking up the entire time they were planning the setup. He told me he was going to leave Candace after a few years anyway, Jessica said, crying openly now. He said once he proved that he could take anything away from his brother, he'd be done with her too. It was always supposed to be temporary. Lisa kept her talking for over an hour, getting every detail of Zach's plan on record. By the time we left that coffee shop, we had enough evidence to bury him. The next morning, I filed a police report for fraud and conspiracy. I also contacted a lawyer about filing a civil lawsuit for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with contract. Apparently, my ruined wedding counted as that. When the detective assigned to my case heard Jessica's confession, he actually whistled. "This is one of the most elaborate revenge schemes I've ever seen," he said. "Your brother put a lot of work into destroying your life. Problem is, he's in the wind now. His wife says he cleaned out their joint account and hasn't been home in a week." Zach knew this was all going to come out eventually. He'd been planning his escape route just like he'd planned everything else. But running just made him look guilty as hell. And it gave us time to build an airtight case while he was hiding wherever cowards go to hide. The detective issued a warrant for Zach's arrest, but warned me it might take time to track him down. While we waited for Zach to slip up, Candace filed for divorce and got emergency custody of their daughter. She also provided additional evidence to support my case. Text messages between her and Zach, financial records showing payments to Jessica, even the original fake photos he'd shown her. My parents finally called me after they learned about the police investigation. They were devastated. Couldn't believe their good son had been capable of something so calculated and cruel. They begged me to come home, to let them make it up for me. I told them we'd see what happened after Zach faced justice. Some bridges can't be rebuilt until the person who burned them down pays the price. I had evidence, I had witnesses, and I had 3 years of rage motivating me to see this through to the end. The hunt for Zach was just getting started. 4 months after Zach disappeared, and let me tell you guys, the legal system moves slower than a government DMV on a Monday morning. But we've been busy building what my lawyer calls the most documented case of sibling revenge he's ever seen. First off, Jessica agreed to cooperate fully with the prosecution in exchange for immunity. Smart move on her part, because the alternative was potentially facing conspiracy charges herself. Turns out Zach had paid her way more than the initial $5,000. Over the 8 months they'd spent planning my destruction, he'd given her nearly $15,000 in consultation fees for helping perfect their little revenge plot. The paper trail was extensive, and it proved this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a carefully orchestrated campaign. My lawyer is this old-school prosecutor turned defense attorney who's seen every kind of case you can imagine. When I first showed him Jessica's recorded confession, he actually laughed. "Your brother is either the dumbest criminal I've ever seen, or he thought he was so smart that he'd never get caught," Dave said. Either way, he's screwed. The civil lawsuit moved faster than the criminal case. Since Zach had fled, the court allowed us to proceed in absentia, meaning we could move forward without him being physically present. We filed for damages, including lost wages, emotional distress, and punitive damages for the sheer maliciousness of what he'd done. But then Candace reached out to me directly. "I need to see you," she said, during our first phone call in years. I agreed to meet her. Lisa came with me for moral support. Candace looked like hell. She brought their daughter Emma with her. The little girl was quiet, well-behaved, but you could see the confusion in her eyes. "I know nothing I say can fix what I did to you," Candace started, and she was crying before she even finished the sentence. "I destroyed your life based on lies, and I'll never forgive myself for that." She explained how Zach had manipulated her. I listened to her apology, and while I appreciated it, I could tell there was something else. Then she continued, "I want to know if there's any chance we could try again," she said quietly. "I know it would take time. I know you'd need to learn to trust me, but we were so good together before Zach destroyed everything." I looked at this woman who had once been the love of my life. What we had was destroyed years ago. "I know, but please just give us a chance." No, Candace. It's in the past now. I moved on. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I explained that this wasn't about holding grudges or being unable to forgive. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed no matter how much both people want it. Before we left, I looked at Emma again. This innocent kid had no idea that her father was a sociopath who destroyed multiple lives for fun. She's going to need stability, I told Candace. Don't screw up. Meanwhile, the criminal case was moving forward. The prosecution had brought in digital forensics experts who analyzed Zach's computer and phone records. They found drafts of the fake text conversations going back months, and even a folder on his laptop labeled Operation Payback with detailed timelines and notes about the plan. Zach had been covering his tracks. He stayed off social media, avoided using credit cards, or anything that could be traced. The police thought he might be working under the table somewhere, but had no solid leads. The criminal prosecutor, Sarah, told me they were building charges that could put Zach away for up to 10 years if convicted on all counts. This isn't just a family dispute, she explained. Your brother committed serious crimes that affected multiple victims over several years. The court takes this kind of systematic harassment very seriously. My parents tried to reach out to Zach, hoping to convince him to come home and face the charges. They were still in denial about the extent of what he'd done, thinking maybe if he apologized and made amends, this could all be worked out. I had to set them straight on that. Zach destroyed my life for fun, I told them. This isn't something you apologize your way out of. He's going to prison, and he deserves every day of it. By month 5 of the investigation, we had enough evidence to convict Zach 10 times over. The only problem was finding him. But I knew Zach better than anyone, and I knew his weaknesses. He was arrogant, he needed to feel superior, and most importantly, he couldn't resist the urge to gloat about his victories. Sooner or later, he'd slip up. Justice was coming for him. It was just a matter of time. 7 months in, justice has finally been served. And holy shit, was it worth the wait? Zach finally got caught 4 weeks ago in Tucson, Arizona, of all places. He'd been working at a construction site under a fake name, living in some sketchy motel, basically existing like the fugitive piece of garbage he'd become. What got him caught? His own stupidity, of course. Apparently, he'd been drinking at some dive bar and started bragging to strangers about how he'd outsmarted everyone. Someone at the bar thought he sounded sketchy and called the local cops. When they ran his fake ID, it came back flagged, and boom, he was in handcuffs. The call from Detective Morrison was one of the best moments of my life. We got him, he said. Your brother is sitting in a holding cell in Arizona, and he's not going anywhere this time. They flew him back in shackles. The trial moved fast once he was back. His public defender tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't having it. Your client had 6 months to come forward and take responsibility, Sarah told them. Instead, he chose to flee and waste taxpayer money on a manhunt. We're going to trial. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. 2 hours. They came back with guilty verdicts on all counts: conspiracy, fraud, identity theft, harassment, criminal impersonation, and something called aggravated stalking, because the harassment had gone on for multiple years. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. He also ordered Zach to pay $175,000 in restitution, $75,000 to me for damages, and $100,000 to cover court costs and the manhunt expenses. After the sentencing, I did something. I put in a request to visit Zach in prison. He picked up the phone on his side of the glass, and for a minute we just stared at each other. Then he said what I'd been waiting to hear for almost 5 years. I know why you're here. Do you? I asked. You want to gloat? You want to see me suffer? I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Actually, Zach, I don't need to tell you anything. Your life speaks for itself. Zach's face was getting red, but I wasn't done. You think you've won? I still took everything from you. I destroyed your wedding, your relationship with Candace, You took one thing from me, Zach. One. And in return, you lost everything. Your wife, your daughter, your career, your freedom, your future. You're going to spend years of your life in prison. I looked him directly in the eye. Haley never loved you. Candace figured out who you really are and left you. Your own parents are ashamed of you. And me? I'm living my best life while you rot in a cage. So tell me, brother, who really won here? Zach just stared at me, and for the first time in our entire lives, he had nothing to say. I stood up to leave, but I had one more thing to say. Oh, and Zach? Haley lives in Seattle now. She's married, has 2 kids, seems really happy. I looked her up on Facebook last week. She doesn't even remember your name. I hung up the phone and walked away, leaving Zach sitting there in his orange jumpsuit, finally understanding that his obsession had cost him everything. Finally, I thought that was the end of it. I was done with this whole nightmare. But apparently the universe wasn't done screwing with me yet. What happened next is so insane that I'm still trying to process it. So after my last meeting with Candace, I figured that was it. We'd both said what we needed to say, got our closure, end of story. I was wrong. Last week, I'm working from home, minding my own business, when I hear a car door slam outside my apartment. Then I hear a kid crying, which gets my attention. I look out my window and nearly have a heart attack. There's Candace's car in my parking lot, and she's pulling that little girl out of the back seat. The kid is crying hysterically, clearly has no idea what's going on, and Candace looks like she's about 5 minutes away from a complete mental breakdown. Before I can even process what I'm seeing, Candace is marching up to my door with her daughter in tow. "I know you're in there," she's yelling. "I can't do this anymore." I open the door because the neighbors are starting to come out and stare. The second I open it, Candace pushes past me into my apartment, dragging Emma behind her. "She's your problem now," Candace says, and I swear to God, guys, she sounded completely unhinged. I never wanted to be a mother. I only had her because Zach wanted a kid, and now he's in prison, and I'm stuck with this mess. The little girl is looking back and forth between us crying. I'm standing there in complete shock, trying to figure out what the hell is happening. Candace starts ranting about how she can't handle being a single mom, how the kid reminds her too much of Zach, how she needs to start fresh without any reminders of her old life. "Why are you bringing her to me?" I ask, because none of this makes any sense. "Because you're the only decent man I know," she says. "Zach is a piece of garbage. My dad lives across the country, and I don't trust any of the other guys in my life." "Candace," I said, "I can't just take your daughter. That's not how this works. She needs her mother." "I don't want to be her mother anymore," she screamed, loud enough that the kids started crying even harder. "I'm done. I'm moving back in with my sister in California, and I'm not taking her with me." At this point, I'm realizing that Candace has completely lost it. I told her she needed to leave, that she needed to get help, that abandoning her child wasn't a solution to anything. But she was already headed for the door. "If you won't take her, I'll just leave her at a fire station or something," she said. "At least then she'll be someone else's problem." That's when I knew I couldn't let her walk out that door. Not with that kid. So I called the police. She tried to leave, but I blocked the door until the cops showed up. When they arrived, the whole situation became a nightmare of paperwork, phone calls, and social services involvement. Long story short, Candace was deemed unfit to care for her daughter and was placed under psychiatric evaluation. The kid needed somewhere to go while they figured out a long-term placement. Since I was the only stable adult present who had any connection to the situation, and since my parents vouched for me when social services called them, I ended up with temporary emergency custody while they worked out a permanent solution. That was 2 weeks ago. Emma is still here. My parents have been helping out, visiting every day. Candace is in some kind of inpatient treatment facility and isn't allowed to make decisions about Emma's care right now. Emma's been through hell. Her dad abandoned her mom tried to give her away, and now she's living with someone she barely knows in a completely unfamiliar place. But she's tougher than she looks. She started sleeping through the night, and yesterday she asked if she could help me make pancakes. I don't know what's going to happen long term, but we contacted Candace's parents, and there's talk they're applying for permanent custody since they're blood relatives and have the stability to provide for her. The one thing I know for sure, Emma deserves better than the family she was born into. Whether that ends up being me, my parents, or Candace's parents, she's going to get it. That's a promise. So that's it for now, Reddit. Thanks for reading this whole insanity. Here's to better days ahead. Story 2. This story is titled, "Wife Cheated with Her Boss and Daughters Covered for Her. So I served her divorce papers, disowned them, and changed my will. So I guess I'm doing this. Typing all this shit out for strangers on the internet because I have literally nobody else to talk to right now. My life just got nuked, and I can't even process half of what's happened, but maybe writing it out will help. Or not. Whatever. Me and my wife Melanie have been together for almost 30 years. Got together when she was 19 and I was 22. We were broke out back then, living in some shitty apartment that always smelled like the last tenant's cats no matter how much we cleaned. But we were happy, just figuring shit out together, making it work. We started with nothing and built everything ourselves. Had 2 daughters, Olivia, 26 female, and Zoe, 24 female. Olivia was always the smart one, valedictorian, top of her class in college, working some fancy corporate job now. She's engaged to this finance bro named Ethan. Wedding's supposed to be this October. Zoe's more laid back, into art and stuff. She's always been a daddy's girl. At least I thought she was. Like any marriage, we had our rough patches. Money was tight when the girls were little. I worked construction, sometimes 2 jobs, while Melanie waited tables and got her degree. We fought about stupid shit, but we always figured it out. That's marriage, right? You stick it out. You don't just bail when things get hard. But lately, I don't know, something felt off. Melanie started acting differently the past few months. Nothing major, just little things. Like she suddenly became super protective of her phone. One time I picked it up just to check the time. Mine was charging, and she practically dove across the room to grab it from me. Said something about privacy and boundaries. We've been married 30 years. Since when do we have phone boundaries? Then there's these girls' nights she started doing with Olivia and Zoe. They used to get together maybe once a month, which was cool. I always thought it was great they were close. But it started to be every other week, sometimes more. And when I ask what they did or where they went, I get these vague answers. Just dinner. Just catching up. Melanie used to come home and tell me all the gossip and stuff they talked about. About 6 months ago, I came home early from a business trip. The client meeting got canceled, so I caught an earlier flight. When I walked in, Melanie was on the phone, but she hung up crazy fast when she saw me. Said it was just Olivia. But when I asked what they were talking about, she got all weird and changed the subject. There was this one time I walked into the kitchen and caught Zoe mid-sentence, saying something low to Melanie. I didn't catch all of it, just something like, "Do you think he knows?" They both turned to look at me, eyes a little wide like I'd startled them. "What are you two whispering about?" I asked, half laughing. Melanie recovered quickly, giving me this casual smile. "Oh, just talking about something for later. Nothing you need to worry about." Zoe chimed in, a little too eagerly. "Yeah, it's just a surprise thing. You'll find out soon enough." I raised an eyebrow. "A surprise? For what?" "Just something fun," Melanie said, brushing past me to grab something from the fridge. "You'll see." I figured if they were planning for my birthday, because it was around the corner. And then there was that other night when Melanie told me she was visiting her sister in Columbus for the weekend. No big deal. I didn't think twice about it. A few days later, I was talking to Olivia on the phone, just catching up, when she casually mentioned how her mom had gotten a nice tan. I frowned. A tan? In Ohio? In February? There was the tiniest pause, barely noticeable, but something about it made me feel like I'd said the wrong thing. Then Olivia laughed a little. "Oh yeah, we went to a tanning place together before she left. It was kind of a random thing. It didn't seem like a big deal, so I just shrugged it off. But then I started noticing how Melanie's been dressing differently, buying new clothes, wearing makeup more often, started going to the gym 3 times a week. Good for her, I guess, but it seemed to come out of nowhere. Oh, and she bought herself this silver bracelet a few months back. Said it was a career milestone reward or something. It looks expensive. When I asked how much it cost, she got defensive. Said I never cared about her treating herself before. Which isn't true. I've always told her to buy stuff she wants if we can afford it. Through all this, I kept thinking, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it's just empty nest syndrome or something. Both girls were out of the house now, so it was just us. People change after 30 years, right? That's normal. I didn't want to be that jealous, controlling husband who freaks out when his wife gets a new haircut or spends more time with our kids. That's not me. Never has been. I've always trusted Melanie completely. But there was this nagging feeling I couldn't shake. Like something wasn't right. Like I was missing something obvious. And then, on a completely ordinary Tuesday, everything fell apart. I was at work, managing a construction site, nothing special. Around lunchtime, I checked my email, scrolling through the usual junk, when something caught my eye. A message with the subject line, "Your wife is cheating on you." My first thought was, it's just a spam. Some scam like those Nigerian prince emails. But something made me open it anyway. The email was short. "Melanie's been screwing her boss Richard for over a year. Everyone at the company knows except you. Thought you deserved to know." And there was a video attached. I sat in my truck for like 20 minutes, just staring at my phone. Part of me didn't want to watch it. Like if I didn't see it, maybe it wasn't real. But eventually I clicked play. The video was from what looked like a company Christmas party. You could see Melanie in the background sitting close to some guy I recognized as her boss, Richard. They weren't doing anything too crazy, just talking real close. Then the camera moved to this drunk woman I vaguely recognized from when I'd picked Melanie up from work a few times. "Oh my God, is that her husband?" the drunk woman asked whoever was filming. "No, just recording the party," a woman's voice behind the camera said. "But tell me what you were saying about Melanie and Richard." The drunk woman laughed and said, "Everyone knows they've been fucking for like a year. They think they're so sneaky, but come on. Those business trips they take together? The way they disappear during lunch? He even bought her that bracelet she always wears. The fucking bracelet. The silver one, she said, was her career milestone reward. I felt like my whole world crumbled. The camera person's voice came through the speakers. How's she getting away with it? The drunk woman laughed, swirling her drink. Oh, she's got it covered. Got her whole routine down. Excuses, little white lies. People think she's working late, out shopping, whatever. But nah, she's with him. The video cut off. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling like the air had been sucked out of my truck. I didn't know who sent it, but I had a pretty good guess. Vanessa. She worked with Melanie, always had tension with her after Melanie got promoted over her last year. This had to be her way of getting back at her. I tried to brush it off, just gossip, drunk talk from someone with a grudge. But the longer I sat there, the more pieces started snapping into place. The girls' nights, the vague answers, the weird phone calls, the bracelet. I couldn't go back to work. My hands were shaking too much. I told my foreman I had a family emergency and just drove. Not home, though. I couldn't face that place. I ended up at my buddy Dave's house. He took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I didn't say anything. Just pulled out my phone, hit play, and handed it to him. Holy shit, man, Dave said when the video ended. What are you gonna do? I had no clue. All I could think about is that I wanted to confront Melanie right away, but another part of me needed more proof. The video could have just been office gossip from someone with a grudge, right? It wasn't enough. That night, I stayed at Dave's, told Melanie I had an emergency at a job site and wouldn't be home for 2 days. She didn't even hesitate, just said, okay, be safe. Like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't lying straight to my face. The ease of it made me sick. The next evening, she texted me saying she was having her usual dinner with the girls. Just a little midweek catch-up, she said, grabbing her coat. Don't wait up. I told her to have fun and got out from Dave's apartment. I drove across town and parked outside the restaurant where Olivia and Zoe usually met her. I sat there for 20 minutes, expecting to see her walk in, but she never did. Then, through the window, I spotted Olivia and Zoe at their usual table. No Melanie. I gripped my phone and texted Olivia. Hey, just wondering, did Mom make it to dinner yet? A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Yeah, she's here. Why? I stared at the message, my stomach twisting. The truth hit me like a brick to the chest. They were fucking lying. They'd been lying this whole time, covering their mom up, making up stories, looking me in the eye and feeding me bullshit while she was off with him. I clenched my jaw and checked the tracker app on my phone, the one we'd installed on each other's phones ages ago for safety reasons. Her dot wasn't at the restaurant. It was across town, at an upscale Italian place. I knew before I even got there what I'd find, but seeing it still felt like a gut punch. Through the window, there she was, sitting next to Richard, so close to him technically on his lap, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. She leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder. They weren't even trying to hide it. I almost threw up. I took out my phone and snapped pictures. A lot of them. Then I opened our family group chat. The one with not just Melanie, Olivia, and Zoe, but my parents, my siblings, her siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. I attached the photos and typed out one message. Hope you're enjoying your dinner with the girls, Melanie. Looks like your boss is enjoying it too. I hit send. Immediately, my phone started blowing up. Olivia. Dad? What are you talking about? Zoe. What's going on? My sister. What the hell is this? My mom. Is this some kind of mistake? Melanie's brother. Mel. What is he talking about? My cousin? Dude. WTF. My dad. Call me. I didn't answer any of them. What was I supposed to say? Just found out my wife of 30 years has been screwing her boss, and my daughters have been covering for her. How's your evening going? I spent the rest of the day driving around, trying to figure out what to say. By the time I got home, they were all there sitting in the living room, looking worried. Dad, what's going on? Olivia asked as soon as I walked in. We've been freaking out. I didn't say anything at first, just pulled out my phone, opened the pictures I'd taken, and handed it to Melanie. Her face went white instantly. Who sent you these? She whispered. I took them. Today. After I got this. Then I played the video. The room went dead silent. Zoe started crying. Olivia just stared at the floor. Melanie kept shaking her head like she could make it all disappear if she tried hard enough. How long? I demanded. Melanie wouldn't answer. It was Olivia who spoke up first. Dad, you need to understand. How long? I shouted, making them all jump. 15 months, Melanie admitted, barely audible. And you too? I looked at my daughters. How long have you been covering for your mother? Lying to my face? Making me look like a fucking idiot? Zoe was sobbing now. Daddy, I'm so sorry. Mom said it was just temporary, that she was going through something. Shut up! Melanie snapped at her. Just shut up, Zoe. No, let her talk, I said. I want to hear exactly how my family conspired behind my back. I stood there staring at my family, who suddenly felt like strangers. Olivia trying to take control of the situation like always. Zoe crying her eyes out, and Melanie looking like she'd seen a ghost. It wasn't like that, Olivia said, her voice all calm and professional. Always the composed one. Mom was unhappy. You were so wrapped up in work, always gone on those long projects. Are you seriously blaming me right now? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not blaming you, she said, but her tone said otherwise. I'm just saying there were reasons. You weren't exactly there for her emotionally. You never wanted to talk about real stuff. You were physically present, but mentally checked out. I stared at my oldest daughter, this stranger defending her mother's affair. So that justifies her fucking her boss? That makes it okay for you to lie to me for over a year? No, but there's no but, I was shouting again. There's no excuse for this. None exclamation mark Melanie finally spoke up. I was going to end it. I was trying to find the right time to what? Come clean? Or leave me? Which was it? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. You know what kills me? I said, looking at all three of them. It's not even the affair. I mean, that's fucked up, don't get me wrong. But it's the lying, the conspiracy. The three of you sitting around the dinner table with me, laughing, acting normal, all while knowing this huge secret. Do you have any idea how stupid that makes me feel? We didn't want to hurt you, Zoe whispered, still crying. Well, congratulations. You failed spectacularly at that, I snapped. The hurt in her eyes made me feel a twinge of guilt, but I was too angry to care. So what now? Olivia asked. Always practical. Already thinking about next steps while I was still trying to process the bomb that just went off in my life. Now? Now I want all of you out of this house, I said quietly. I can't even look at any of you right now. Dad, please, Zoe begged. Let's talk about this. I know I messed up. I just didn't know what to do. Get out, I shouted. I'm serious. All of you, get out. They left, Melanie and Olivia practically dragging a hysterical Zoe. As the door closed, I collapsed on the couch feeling like someone had ripped my heart out and stomped on it. The house felt so empty, so quiet. I walked around looking at all our family photos. I was fuming, grabbed the nearest photo, us at Olivia's college graduation, and smashed it against the wall. The glass shattered, which felt satisfying for about 2 seconds. Then I just felt worse. I didn't sleep that night, just sat on the couch staring at nothing, trying to make sense of everything. My phone kept buzzing with texts and calls from all three of them, but I ignored it. What was there to say? The next few days were a blur. I took time off work, told my boss it was a family emergency. Technically not a lie. I barely left the couch, didn't really eat, didn't shower, just sat there replaying every moment of the last year, looking for signs I missed. Dave came by to check on me, brought food I didn't eat. He wanted me to go stay with him. Said it wasn't good for me to be alone in the house with all the memories. But I couldn't move, couldn't do anything. My phone kept blowing up. Melanie's messages went from apologetic, I'm so sorry, please let me explain, to angry. You're being childish, we need to talk like adults, to manipulative, I'm worried about you. Please just let me know you're okay. I ignored them all. Melanie was nothing to me now. After everything I gave to this marriage, after 30 years of sacrifice, hard work, and loyalty, she threw it all away for some cheap affair. Fine, that was her choice. She could enjoy her boss. I didn't care. But Olivia and Zoe? That was the real knife to the gut. My own daughters. The kids I raised, protected, provided for, they had been part of this. They had known. And worse, they had helped her, lied for her, covered for her, looked me in the eye, sat across from me at the dinner table, and acted like nothing was wrong. That betrayal was something I couldn't shake. Olivia sent one text. What you're doing is unfair to everyone. When you're ready to have a mature conversation about this, let me know. Entitled as always. Acting like I was the one who fucked up. I wanted to throw my phone against the wall. Zoe was different. She called constantly, left tearful voicemails. Daddy, please talk to me. I know I messed up so bad. I was just trying to keep the family together. Mom said if I told you, you'd leave and everything would fall apart. I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. Her messages were the hardest to ignore. She'd always been my little girl. The one who'd bring me dandelions and call them flowers. The one who'd fall asleep on my chest watching cartoons. But now all I could see was her lying to my face, helping Melanie sneak around behind my back, After a week of this, Dave finally convinced me to get my shit together. He was right. I couldn't just sit there feeling sorry for myself. I needed to take action. So I called a lawyer that Dave recommended. With the evidence you have, you're in a good position, the lawyer told me after I showed him the video and pictures. But you need to be smart about this. Don't leave the house. That can be seen as abandonment. Don't empty the bank accounts, but do move half the money to a separate account she can't access. And document everything. I followed his advice. Stayed in the house, moved money, changed the locks. Started documenting every interaction. Melanie showed up one day with Olivia, demanding to be let in to get her things. I recorded the whole thing on my phone, standing in the doorway while they called me every name in the book. You can get your stuff when my lawyer says you can, I told them calmly, which just pissed them off more. I'm getting married in 2 months, Olivia shouted. Are you really going to ruin that because mom made a mistake? A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill, I said. What your mother did was a choice. A series of choices made every day for 15 months. And what you did was just as bad. I was protecting my family. No, you were protecting your mother's affair. There's a difference. They eventually left, but not before Olivia said, I'm still expecting you to pay for the wedding. You promised. The fucking audacity of this girl. I just closed the door in her face. All I could do after 2 weeks since I discovered that shit is trying to keep it together, going through the motions. Wake up, go to work, come home, stare at walls, try to sleep. Repeat. Dave and a couple other buddies keep checking on me, inviting me out for beers or to watch games, but I turned them down most of the time. Just didn't have the energy to be social. Zoe's kept trying to reach out, calling, texting, even showed up at my job site once. I finally agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, not ready to forgive her, but at least willing to listen. She looked like shit. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same hoodie she's had since high school. I'm so sorry, Dad, she said as soon as I sat down. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I should have told you. Why didn't you? I asked. That's the question that keeps me up at night. Mom said she was going through a midlife crisis thing, that she just needed to get it out of her system, and if you found out, you'd never forgive her. She said it would destroy our family. So instead, you destroyed my trust. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I know, it was wrong. But you were always working, Dad. Always at job sites, always stressed about money. Mom was lonely. And I'm not saying that makes it okay, she added quickly. What she did was wrong. But maybe if you'd been around more, talked to her more, noticed she was unhappy. And there it was. Even in her apology, she was still blaming me, still making excuses. I worked my ass off to give you and your sister everything, I said quietly, to put you through college, to make sure we had a nice house, nice cars, vacations. If your mother was unhappy, she could have talked to me. She could have suggested counseling. She could have asked for a divorce. Instead, she cheated. And you helped her. I know, she whispered. I'm just trying to explain, not excuse. I wasn't sure I believed that. But looking at her, I couldn't just walk away like I'd planned. She's still my daughter. But I don't know if I'll ever trust her again. I need time, I told her. I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I used to. I understand, she said, wiping away tears. Thank you for meeting me. As I watched her walk away, I was torn between wanting to call her back and wanting to cut her out of my life completely. Meanwhile, the divorce is moving along. Melanie's fighting for half of everything, including my retirement account that I'd started before we even met. She wants the house, alimony, the works, claims she sacrificed her career for our family, even though she's been working full-time since Zoe started elementary school. And get this, Olivia's still sending me wedding bills, venue deposits, florist payments, dress alterations. The fucking nerve. I don't respond, but each new demand makes me angrier. One night, I got a text from Ethan, Olivia's fiancé, texted me asking to meet for coffee. He wanted to understand what really happened. When we met, he admitted Olivia didn't know he was there. She'd be furious if she found out. She told him that I was overreacting to a brief affair, kicked them all out, and refused to pay for the wedding out of spite. He hadn't fully believed it, noticing Olivia had been acting secretive. I laid it all out, the video, the 15-month affair, how both girls had covered for Melanie. By the end, he looked sick. He had no idea it was this bad. At that point, I was still trying to figure out what to do about Olivia and Zoe. Cutting them off completely felt drastic, but after everything, could I ever trust them again? Rebuilding seemed impossible when I wasn't even sure if they truly regretted what they had done. But one thing was certain, Melanie and I were finished. There was no coming back from that level of betrayal. So, I filed for divorce. Work became my escape. I had to keep the money coming in, especially with the divorce set to drain me dry. My crew knew something was up, but they didn't ask questions when I zoned out or needed a minute. They just gave me space, which I appreciated. The divorce turned ugly fast. Melanie's lawyer tried spinning the narrative, painting me as a neglectful workaholic who had pushed her into the affair. My lawyer suggested settling to avoid dragging it out, but I refused. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about principle. Ethan called me again yesterday. Apparently, he had a big fight with Olivia after our talk. He started asking questions about the affair, and she flipped out, accused him of taking my side and betraying her trust. The irony is fucking staggering. I'm having serious doubts about the wedding, he told me. If she can lie about something this big, what else is she keeping from me? Smart kid. Cheaters protect cheaters. I told him exactly that. Someone who can justify lying to their father for over a year can justify lying to anyone. Speaking of Olivia, she sent me this long email last week, full of psychobabble bullshit about how I need to process my feelings and work through my anger so we can heal as a family. Like we're all just going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya after what they did. She even had the balls to include more wedding expense forms I needed to sign. Zoe's been different. After our coffee shop talk, she's backed off a bit. Sends me texts every few days. Nothing pushy, just checking in. Hope you're doing okay? Thinking about you. Love you, Dad. I don't usually respond, but I don't block her either. Don't know why? Maybe some part of me isn't ready to completely let go. Dave's been a rock through all this. Last weekend, he convinced me to go fishing with him and some buddies. It was the first time in weeks I went hours without thinking about the shitstorm my life's become. Then my lawyer called with some interesting news. Apparently, Melanie's trying to sell off some of our joint assets before the divorce is finalized. She accidentally mentioned to a mutual friend that she and her boss are planning a big trip to Europe once all this unpleasantness is over. Fucking unbelievable. Hector got an emergency injunction to freeze everything. One small victory. I still didn't know what to do about Olivia and Zoe. I loved them, but every time I started to soften, I remembered the lies. The fake girls' nights, the way they covered for Melanie, warning her when I asked questions. They didn't just know. They actively helped her. For 15 months, they chose her affair over my right to the truth. Olivia's wedding was coming up, and somehow she still expected me to walk her down the aisle. She even sent a guilt-tripping text about how my issues with Melanie shouldn't affect her special day. Like that was what mattered, not the family she helped destroy. I didn't respond. Anything I'd say would end with me telling her exactly where to go. I thought about just leaving, selling the house, moving somewhere new, starting fresh, but that felt like letting them win, like I was the one who did something wrong. And just when I thought this shit show couldn't get any worse, life decided to throw another curveball my way. I was meeting with my lawyer about the divorce when he mentioned checking social media for anything that might help our case. I'm not on that stuff, I told him. Well, Melanie is, he said, turning his laptop toward me. And you might want to see this. It was Melanie's Facebook page. There was a post from a few days ago, a photo of her, Richard, and Olivia at some fancy restaurant. The caption read, "So blessed to be surrounded by love as we blend our families. Richard has officially proposed, wedding planning for us after we help Olivia with hers. Engaged, engaged." The divorce wasn't even finalized yet, and they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. And Olivia was right there with them, celebrating the relationship that destroyed our family. In the comments, she'd written, "So happy for you guys. Can't wait to have 2 weddings to celebrate." I felt so dumb. Here I was still reeling from the affair, still waking up every morning with that sick feeling, and they were already playing happy families. Planning a fucking wedding. There was more. Another post showed Richard helping Olivia with wedding preparations. Apparently, he's paying for the stuff I refused to cover, playing the hero. And in one photo, Olivia's calling him her bonus dad. Bonus dad. What the actual fuck? That was it. The final straw. In that moment, something inside me just snapped. All the hurt, all the betrayal, all the months of second-guessing myself crystallized into a cold clarity. I want to change my will, I told the lawyer. I want Melanie to get nothing beyond what the law requires. And I want both Olivia and Zoe removed as beneficiaries. Hector looked surprised. Are you sure? That's a big step. I'm sure, I said. They made their choices. Now I'm making mine. When I got home that night, I got a call from Ethan. He was done. Broke things off with Olivia after finding texts between her and Melanie, planning how to manipulate me into paying for the wedding. They had this whole strategy mapped out. How Olivia would guilt-trip me. How they'd use mutual friends to pressure me. The works. You were right about her, he said. I'm sorry, sir. I thought you should know. I thanked him, actually feeling bad for the kid. He dodged a bullet, but it still had to hurt. Later, I got a call from Zoe. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Apparently, she'd had a huge fight with Melanie and Olivia after finding out about the engagement and the social media posts. They didn't even tell me, she sobbed. I found out from Facebook like everyone else. And when I asked Mom how she could get engaged when you two aren't even divorced yet, she said I needed to grow up and get with the program. Olivia took her side, of course, said I was being childish and dramatic. Part of me felt a flicker of hope that maybe Zoe was finally seeing the truth. But then she said, I just don't understand why you can't all try to work this out. Why does everyone have to be so extreme? Mom made a mistake, but I cut her off. 15 months isn't a mistake, Zoe. And neither is lying to my face every day for months. Those are choices. Choices all of you made. I know, she said quickly. I know that. I'm not defending what she did, or what I did. I miss how things used to be. Things were never how they used to be, I said. It was all a lie. And I'm done. What do you mean, done? She asked, sounding scared. I mean, I'm moving on. With my life. Without any of you. She started crying harder. Dad, please. I know I fucked up. I know that. But I'm trying here. I'm really trying. It's too late, I said. I've already changed my will. You and Olivia are out of it. Dead silence on the other end. Then, you what? You heard me. I met with my lawyer today. Everything goes to my brother now. But Dad, that's not, you can't just, I can, and I did. You all made your choices. Now I've made mine. She hung up. I expected to feel guilty, but instead I felt lighter, like I'd finally cut loose an anchor that had been dragging me down. The next day, all hell broke loose. Olivia sent a barrage of texts calling me petty, vindictive, cruel. Melanie had her lawyer contact Hector about my retaliatory actions. Even some mutual friends reached out, saying I was being too harsh, that I should think about reconciliation for the sake of the family. Fuck that. Fuck all of that. I slept through the night. No dreams about the way things used to be. No waking up with that sick feeling. Just peaceful, dreamless sleep. At that time, I realized that the family I thought I had never existed. It was a mirage. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's better to live in truth, even a painful truth, than in a comfortable lie. Final update. It's been 5 months since everything went down. I figured I'd give you guys an update. The divorce is final. Melanie didn't get nearly what she wanted, thanks to Hector's badass lawyering and all the evidence I had. She got some cash and her car, but not the house or my retirement. She and Richard got married 2 weeks after our divorce was finalized. Classy. I sold the house. Too many memories, good and bad. Bought a smaller place closer to work in a different neighborhood. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. No ghosts, no lies. After I changed my will and told Zoe about it, she showed up at my door the next day, crying and begging me to reconsider. Said she'd do anything to make things right. I told her I appreciated it, but my decision was final. When she realized I wasn't budging, something changed in her. She got quiet, then cold. So that's it? She asked. 30 years as a family and you're just throwing it all away? I didn't throw anything away, I told her. You all did that when you decided to lie to me for over a year. She left and I haven't heard from her since. Apparently she's moved in with Melanie and Richard. One big happy family. Olivia got married last month to some doctor she met right after Ethan left her. They didn't invite me. I didn't expect them to. I heard from mutual friends that Richard walked her down the aisle. That stung for about a minute. Then I realized I didn't actually care. The thing about cutting toxic people out of your life is that it hurts like hell at first. But then you start to notice how much lighter you feel, how much more energy you have, how much clearer your head is. I've been seeing someone for a couple months now. I'll call her Jess. Met her at a friend's barbecue. She's divorced too. Understands the baggage that comes with that. We're taking it slow, but it's good. Really good. She knows my whole story and doesn't judge me for cutting off my daughters. She gets it in a way most people don't. Her ex cheated on her with her sister, so she knows all about family betrayal. Do I miss Olivia and Zoe? Sometimes. Usually when I see a father with his adult daughters out to dinner, or when I hear a song they used to like, or on their birthdays. But it's more like missing the idea of them, the daughters I thought I had. The real ones? The ones who lied to my face for months? Nah, don't miss them at all. A few weeks ago, I ran into Ethan at a sports bar. He's doing well, dating someone new. He told me Olivia had reached out to him recently, saying she'd made a huge mistake and wanted another chance. He turned her down. You taught me something important, he said. About self-respect. About not letting people treat you like you don't matter. That meant a lot, hearing that. At least something good came out of this whole mess. Last week, I finalized my new will with my lawyer. Most of my stuff goes to my brother and his kids, who've been my rock through all this. I also set up a small scholarship fund at the local community college for students in the construction management program. Figured I might as well help some kids who actually appreciate the opportunity. Jess and I are talking about moving in together next year. Taking it slow, but the direction feels right. She makes me laugh, calls me on my bullshit, and doesn't have a single relative who stabbed me in the back. Major upgrade. Sometimes people ask if I regret my decision to cut Olivia and Zoe off completely. They say things like, but they're your daughters, or family is forever, or some other Hallmark card bullshit. My answer is always the same. Family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, respect, loyalty. Things my daughters showed me they don't have. Maybe someday one of them will genuinely realize what they did and apologize without excuses or blame shifting. Maybe pigs will fly too. I'm not holding my breath for either. What I've learned through all this is that you can't control what others do, only how you respond. Melanie chose to cheat. Olivia and Zoe chose to enable and cover for her. And I chose to walk away from all of them. The hardest part wasn't the affair itself, as devastating as that was. It was realizing that my daughters, the people I would have done anything for, could betray me like that, could lie to my face day after day, could help break my heart, and then blame me for not being happy about it. But here's the thing. Once you accept that the people you loved aren't who you thought they were, you can start to build a life that's real. Not based on lies or false obligations, but on genuine connections with people who actually give a shit about you. So yeah, I'm doing better than I ever expected to be. This isn't the life I planned, but it's a good one, an honest one. And that's worth more than any family that's built on lies. Story 3. Girlfriend's best friend convinced her I'm toxic. She's stunned I dumped her over it. Alright, so here's the deal. I'm a 28-year-old guy, been dating this amazing girl Sarah, who's 26. We've been together for just over a year now, and for the most part things are great. I'm really into her. She's smart, funny, all that good stuff. But there's this one thing that's been a constant thorn in my side. Her best friend Jake. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not the jealous type. At least I try not to be. I've always believed in giving people their space, trusting them and all that. But with Jake? Man, it's been tough. Jake is 27, and he's been Sarah's ride or die since college. I knew they were close from the get-go, and at first I didn't think much of it. Everyone's got a best friend, right? No big deal. But as time went on, I started noticing stuff. Like, they're not just close. They're really close. And I mean, the kind of close where it starts to feel like I'm tagging along in their relationship instead of being in one with Sarah. You ever feel like the third wheel? That's me. All the time. Let me paint you a picture. It's a random Tuesday night, and Sarah and I have plans to chill. I'm thinking we'll watch a movie, maybe order some food, just relax together. But nope. Jake calls, and suddenly she's all excited about going out for dinner with him. And just like that, my plans, gone. Not even a hey, wanna come with us? It's like I don't exist. And the thing is, this isn't a one-time thing. It happens a lot. They have these regular hangouts, dinners, movie nights, late-night drives, the kind of stuff couples usually do. And every time I bring it up, she just says, oh, it's just Jake, you know how we are. Like, yeah, I do know. And that's kind of the problem. There's this one night I remember really well. We were supposed to have this chill evening, just the two of us. But guess what? Jake pops up again. He had a bad day, so Sarah feels the need to rush over and comfort him. And I'm sitting there like, what about us? But of course, Jake takes priority. And the worst part? When I do get to tag along, it's awkward as hell. Like, they've got their own little world with inside jokes and shared memories, and I'm just there, trying to keep up. You know that feeling when everyone's laughing at something, but you have no clue what's so funny? Yeah, that's me every time I'm with them. It's like they speak their own language, and I'm stuck trying to translate. At first, I tried to be cool about it. I told myself, they've been friends for years. It's not a big deal. You're being paranoid. But then I started noticing little things that didn't sit right with me. Like how Jake texts her all the time. I'm talking morning, noon, night. Even when we're together, her phone's buzzing with messages from him. And it's not just casual stuff either. He calls her babe and sweetheart. Who does that? One time we were out on a date and her phone kept lighting up with texts from Jake. I asked her about it and she just laughed, saying, that's just how we talk. It doesn't mean anything. But it felt off. I mean, I'm her boyfriend. Shouldn't those pet names be reserved for me? Then there's the late night FaceTime sessions. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to find her whispering and giggling on the phone with him. I asked her about it the next morning and she said Jake was going through something and needed to talk. Okay, I get that. But why does he always need her? Why can't he talk to one of his other friends or, I don't know, deal with his stuff like a grown man? I know some of you might be thinking, dude, just chill, they're just friends. And trust me, I've tried. But it's hard when you feel like you're constantly playing second fiddle to someone else. I mean, isn't a relationship supposed to be about two people, not three? What really gets to me is how much I've bent over backward to be understanding. I've swallowed my pride, pushed down my insecurities, and tried to be the bigger person. But there's only so much a guy can take before he starts feeling like he's just a background character in someone else's life. It's not like I'm asking for much. I'm not saying she has to cut Jake out of her life completely. I get it, they've got history. But would it kill her to set some boundaries? Like maybe not prioritizing him over me all the time? Maybe not using pet names that make it seem like they're more than just friends? Is that really too much to ask? Honestly, I'm at my wit's end. I love Sarah, but this whole Jake situation has me questioning everything. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, trying not to come off as the jealous, controlling boyfriend. But at what point do my feelings matter? At what point do I get to say, hey, this isn't working for me? Another time, we were out on a date. We just sat down at this nice little restaurant, and things were going great. But then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I could see her face light up. It was Jake, of course. She spent the next 10 minutes texting back and forth with him while I just sat there picking at my food. I finally asked her if she could put her phone away, and she looked at me like I was asking for the world. It's just Jake, she said. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? It felt like I was sitting there alone while she was on a date with her phone. I started to feel like I was playing second fiddle to this guy, and it really started to mess with my head. Every time her phone buzzed, I'd get this sinking feeling in my gut, wondering if it was Jake again. Then there was the time we were planning a weekend getaway. We'd been talking about it for weeks, and I was really looking forward to it. It felt like a chance for us to just be together, away from all the distractions. But of course, Jake had to pop up again. He found out about this concert happening the same weekend and asked Sarah to go with him. And you know what she did? She asked me if we could reschedule our trip so she could go to the concert with Jake. I couldn't believe it. I mean, here we were planning this romantic weekend, and she was willing to push it aside for a concert with Jake. When I asked her why she couldn't just skip the concert, she got defensive. It's a band we both love, she said. I can't miss this with him. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Our relationship was supposed to be important, but it seemed like I was always getting the short end of the stick when it came to Jake. And it wasn't just the texting and the FaceTime calls. It was the way she'd light up whenever he was around, the inside jokes, the way she'd drop everything for him. I started noticing how much she'd change when Jake was in the picture. She'd be happier, more energetic, like he brought out a side of her that I couldn't reach. It made me feel like I was failing as a boyfriend, like I wasn't enough for her. But the thing that really got to me was how dismissive she was about my feelings. Every time I tried to bring up how uncomfortable I was with her relationship with Jake, she'd brush it off. You're being ridiculous, she'd say. Jake's just my friend. You don't have to worry about him. But how could I not worry when it felt like he was constantly in the middle of our relationship? It wasn't just about the pet names or the texts or the late night calls. It was about the fact that I felt like I was competing for her attention, and no matter what I did, I always came in second place. I started to wonder if I was crazy for feeling this way, if I was just being insecure or jealous. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I wasn't asking her to cut Jake out of her life completely. I just wanted her to see how much it hurt me to always be pushed aside for him. But no matter how many times I tried to talk to her about it, she'd just dismiss my concerns and tell me I was overthinking it. It was like my feelings didn't matter, like I was just supposed to suck it up and deal with it. And that's when I started to realize that maybe this wasn't just about Jake. Maybe it was about something deeper. Maybe it was about the fact that Sarah didn't seem to care how her actions were affecting me, and that hurt more than anything Jake could ever do. All right, so I've been trying to keep things together with Sarah despite all the stuff with Jake. I've been telling myself that I just need to be patient, that eventually she'll see how much all this is affecting me. But let me tell you that patience finally ran out one weekend, and it wasn't pretty. So here's the setup. Sarah and I had been planning this anniversary trip for months. We were both super excited about it, or at least I thought we were. We had everything mapped out, a cozy little cabin, some hiking, just the two of us getting away from all the noise. It was supposed to be our time, you know? A break from all the everyday crap, and hopefully from Jake too. But a few days before we're supposed to leave, Sarah drops a bomb on me. She's all like, hey, so Jake just found out about this concert happening that same weekend. It's this band we've both loved forever, and he really wants me to go with him. I'm sitting there, kinda stunned, waiting for her to say, "But of course I told him no because we have our trip." But nope. Instead she goes, "Do you think we could reschedule our trip so I can go?" Reschedule? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was our anniversary, something we had been planning for months. And now she wants to just push it aside for a last-minute concert with Jake? I tried to keep calm, but I could feel the anger bubbling up. I asked her, "Why can't Jake just go by himself or with someone else? Why does it have to be you?" She gave me that look like I was being unreasonable. "You don't get it," she said. "This band means a lot to us. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I can't miss it." And there it was. The moment I realized where I really stood in this relationship. It was like no matter what, Jake was always going to come first. I told her straight up, "Sarah, this isn't okay. You're asking me to step aside for Jake again. It feels like I'm constantly competing with him for your time and attention, and I'm tired of it." But she just brushed it off, saying I was overreacting and that it wasn't a big deal. "You knew Jake was part of my life when we started dating," she said. "Why are you trying to change me now?" That hit me hard. I wasn't trying to change her. I just wanted to feel like I was a priority too. Like our relationship actually mattered. But in that moment, it felt like I was asking for too much. She was so defensive, like she couldn't even see where I was coming from. Then she said something that really got under my skin. "Jake thinks you're being controlling and insecure," she told me. Oh, great. Now Jake's weighing in on our relationship? Like, why does his opinion even matter here? This was supposed to be about us, not him. I told her I needed some boundaries. No more pet names with Jake, no more constant one-on-one hangouts, and definitely no more prioritizing him over our relationship. But she blew up at me. She called me controlling, said I was being toxic. It was like she couldn't even hear me. All I was asking for was some basic respect. But to her, I was the bad guy. We fought for what felt like hours. I kept trying to explain how I felt, how much it hurt to always be the second choice. But she just kept doubling down, insisting that I was the one with the problem. She even said, "If you can't handle Jake being in my life, maybe this isn't going to work." That was the moment I knew we had hit a breaking point. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I couldn't keep ignoring how much this was hurting me. I loved Sarah, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my own happiness just to keep the peace. It wasn't fair to me. After that fight, she started giving me the silent treatment. I was left alone with my thoughts, replaying everything over and over in my head. I kept asking myself if I was really the one in the wrong, if maybe I was being too sensitive or controlling. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I wasn't asking for anything crazy. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. I started thinking about all the times I had put her first, all the times I had made sacrifices for our relationship. And what did I get in return? More time for Jake, less time for me. It felt like I was fighting a losing battle, and no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to win. That weekend was supposed to be a celebration of us, a chance to reconnect and strengthen our relationship. But instead, it turned into another reminder of how far down the priority list I was. I realized that I couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change, or I was going to lose myself completely. And that's when I decided to give her the ultimatum. I didn't want to, but I felt like I had no choice. It was either she set some boundaries with Jake, or we're done. I didn't know how she was going to react, but I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I needed to know if she was willing to fight for us, or if I was just wasting my time. In that moment, I felt a weird mix of emotions: sadness, anger, frustration, but also a strange sense of relief. I had finally spoken my truth, laid everything out on the table. Now it was up to her to decide what she wanted. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear the answer. All right, so after the fight about the concert, I knew something had to give. I was done being the guy who gets pushed aside every time Jake decided he needed Sarah's attention. I loved her, sure, but I couldn't keep feeling like a distant second in my own relationship. It was draining me and I couldn't take it anymore. That's when I knew I had to draw a line. Now I didn't go into this thinking, "Hey, I'm going to drop an ultimatum and fix everything." Honestly, I didn't even like the idea of it. I've always thought ultimatums were a last resort, something people do when they're desperate. But at this point, I was desperate. I needed her to understand how much this was messing with me. So one evening, I sat her down. No distractions, no phones buzzing with texts from Jake, just us. I tried to stay calm, but I was nervous as hell. I didn't know how she was going to take it, but I couldn't back down now. I told her straight up, "Sarah, we need to talk about Jake." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "We've already talked about this," she said, brushing me off like it was no big deal. But it was a big deal, to me at least. I know we've talked, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But nothing's changed, and I can't keep doing this. I feel like I'm constantly fighting for your attention, and Jake always wins. She rolled her eyes, which, let me tell you, did not help. You're being ridiculous, she said. Jake's my best friend. He's always been there for me. You knew that when we started dating. I did, I admitted. But I didn't know it would feel like this. Like I'm just a placeholder in your life while Jake gets all the important parts. That seemed to get her attention, at least a little. She frowned, but she didn't interrupt this time, so I kept going. I'm not asking you to stop being friends with him, I said. I get that you two are close, but there need to be boundaries. I'm your boyfriend, Sarah. I should be the one you turn to first, not him. She crossed her arms, clearly on the defensive. What kind of boundaries? She asked, almost challenging me. No more pet names, I said, ticking off my points. No more constant one-on-one hangouts, and definitely no more prioritizing him over me. If we're together, I need to feel like I matter. Like I'm not just some guy you're killing time with until Jake's free. Her face was hard to read, but I could tell she wasn't happy. So what? If I don't do this, we're done? She asked, her tone sharp. I hesitated, but only for a second. Yeah, I said, feeling a lump in my throat. If you can't do this, then maybe we shouldn't be together. Silence. She just stared at me, and for a moment I thought she might actually take it seriously, but then she shook her head and laughed bitterly. You're giving me an ultimatum? She said, incredulous. That's not fair. I know it's not ideal, I admitted, but I don't know what else to do. I've tried talking to you about this and nothing's changed. I'm not trying to control you, Sarah. I just want to feel like I'm your partner, not some extra in your life. She didn't say anything for a while, and the silence was brutal. I could feel the weight of everything hanging in the air, and it was suffocating. Finally, she spoke. You're asking me to change who I am, she said quietly. No, I said, shaking my head. I'm asking you to see how this is affecting me. I'm asking you to meet me halfway. She looked down at her hands, and for a moment, I thought she might actually consider it. But then she sighed and said, Jake thinks you're being controlling. That hit me like a slap in the face. Jake thinks... Seriously, why does his opinion matter so much? This isn't about him. It's about us. She didn't have an answer for that, and the silence stretched on again. I could feel the anger and frustration bubbling up inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Losing it wouldn't help. I don't want to be the bad guy here, I said softly. I just want to be with you, without feeling like I'm competing for your attention. Sarah looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something shift in her eyes. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was realization. I don't know. But she didn't say anything more. She just nodded slowly, like she was processing everything. I need to think about this, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Take all the time you need, I replied, standing up. But know that I'm serious, Sarah. I can't keep going like this. With that, I walked out, leaving her sitting there in the quiet. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I knew I had done everything I could. Now it was up to her. And whatever she decided, I had to be ready for it. I wasn't really sure what to expect after dropping that ultimatum on Sarah. Part of me thought she'd just walk away, maybe even run straight to Jake. I'd prepared myself for the worst, but what happened next? Honestly, I didn't see it coming. It was Saturday night, a couple of days after our big fight. I was sitting at home, mentally gearing up for whatever was about to go down. I wasn't expecting her to show up at my door, but there she was, looking nervous and clutching her phone like it was some kind of lifeline. Can we talk? She asked, her voice softer than usual. I stepped aside to let her in, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know if this was going to be another fight or what, but I knew we couldn't just leave things hanging the way they were. She sat down on the couch, fidgeting with her hands. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, she started, not quite meeting my eyes. About Jake, about us. I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. I didn't want to push her, but I wasn't about to let her off the hook either. She had to face this head on. I canceled the concert, she said, finally looking up at me. I told Jake I couldn't go. That threw me off. I didn't expect her to actually cancel. Why? I asked, trying not to sound too hopeful. She took a deep breath. Because I realized you were right. I've been putting Jake before you, and that's not fair. I didn't see it before, but now, I get it. I could see she was struggling with the words, like admitting this was physically painful. But she kept going. I've been selfish, she admitted. I've been so caught up in my friendship with Jake that I didn't stop to think about how it was affecting you. And I'm sorry. Hearing her say that was like a weight lifting off my chest. But at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder if it was too little, too late. Why now? I asked. Why did it take an ultimatum for you to see this? She hesitated, then said, because I was scared. I didn't want to lose you, but I also didn't want to lose Jake. I thought I could have both without any problems, but I was wrong. Her honesty hit me hard. I could see she was being sincere, and that wasn't easy for her. But I wasn't about to just sweep everything under the rug because of a few heartfelt words. I appreciate the apology, I said slowly. But this isn't just about the concert. It's about everything. The texts, the pet names, the late night calls. It's been building up for a long time, Sarah. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I know, she whispered. And I don't want to keep hurting you. I want to fix this. I want to be better. It was a lot to take in. I could see she was genuinely trying, but trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. It's going to take more than just words, I told her. I need to see changes. I need to feel like I'm a priority in your life. I understand, she said, wiping away a tear. And I'm ready to show you. I want to spend this weekend together, just us. No distractions, no Jake. I want to make things right. I wasn't sure what to say. Part of me was still guarded, not wanting to get my hopes up. But another part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could turn this around. All right, I said finally. Let's see how it goes. She gave me a small, tentative smile, like she wasn't sure if I was being serious. But I was. I wanted to give her a chance to prove herself, even if I wasn't sure if it would be enough. We spent the rest of the evening just talking. No big plans, no distractions, just the two of us trying to reconnect. It was awkward at first, but as the night went on, it started to feel better, like maybe we were finding our way back to each other. She opened up about her friendship with Jake, telling me things I didn't know before, how he'd been there for her during some tough times, how their bond had formed over shared struggles. It helped me understand why she valued him so much, even if it didn't completely excuse her actions. And I shared my side too, how it felt to be sidelined, to always come second to someone else. I told her how much it hurt to feel like I wasn't enough, like I was just an afterthought in her life. By the time we went to bed, I felt emotionally drained, but also lighter. It wasn't like everything was magically fixed, but it was a start. We were finally having the conversations we should have had a long time ago. The next morning, she made us breakfast, and we spent the day just being together. No Jake, no interruptions, just us. It felt good, but I knew it was going to take more than one good weekend to fix what was broken. Still, for the first time in a long time, I felt like there was hope. Like maybe we could get through this if we both put in the effort. But I also knew I had to be cautious. I couldn't let myself get swept up in the moment and forget all the hurt that had brought us here. As the day went on, I found myself wondering what the future would look like. Could we really move past this? Would she be able to set the boundaries I needed? Or was this just a temporary fix for a bigger problem? I didn't have all the answers, but for now, I was willing to take things one step at a time. We still had a long way to go, but at least we were finally on the same page. And that, for me, was a step in the right direction. After our intense conversation, Sarah and I decided to spend the weekend together, focusing on us and trying to rebuild what had been falling apart. I was still on edge, unsure if anything could truly mend the damage, but I was willing to try. Friday night started off simple enough. Dinner, a movie, and an effort to just be present with each other. We were cooking in my kitchen, some pasta dish that didn't require too much effort. It felt nice, almost like we were back in the early days when things were easy and light. We were laughing, making small talk about random stuff, and for a moment, it felt like we were on the right track. But then, halfway through the meal, Sarah put her fork down and gave me this look, the kind of look that tells you something big is coming. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice quieter than usual. My heart skipped a beat. I braced myself, thinking she was about to drop another bomb about Jake, or maybe something else entirely. The air felt heavy as I waited for her to continue. I'm pregnant, she finally said, barely above a whisper. I froze, my mind scrambling to catch up. You're pregnant? She nodded, her eyes already welling up with tears. I just found out a few days ago. I wasn't sure how to tell you. I've been scared. At first, I was just in shock. Pregnant? It wasn't something we had talked about, at least not seriously. But as the words sank in, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Surprise, sure, but also a strange mix of happiness and anxiety. I stood up, walked over to her, and pulled her into a hug. Wow, I said, still trying to process. That's amazing. She clung to me tightly, and for a moment everything felt right. This was huge, life-changing even, but it also felt like it could be the start of something good, something that could bring us closer together. The rest of the night was spent talking about what this meant for us. We sat on the couch, hands intertwined, discussing everything from baby names to how we'd handle the practical stuff. Money, space, telling our families. Sarah seemed genuinely happy, and I started to believe that maybe this was exactly what we needed to move forward. But as the initial shock and excitement began to settle, a nagging thought started creeping into my mind, something I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. The next morning, we went out for a walk. It was one of those crisp, cool mornings that made everything feel a little more alive. We talked more about the baby, what the future might look like, but that nagging thought was still there, lurking in the back of my mind. After we got back to my place, I noticed something odd. Sarah's phone, which was usually buzzing every few minutes with texts from Jake, was eerily silent. No calls, no messages. I didn't say anything at first, but it was strange. Jake had been such a constant presence, always texting, always needing something. Now, nothing. As the day went on, I couldn't help but notice how much calmer Sarah seemed. No distractions, no checking her phone nervously. It was almost too quiet. I tried to push it out of my mind, to just focus on us and the baby, but the doubts wouldn't let go. That evening, while we were sitting on the couch, I finally asked her about it. Hey, I've noticed Jake hasn't been around much lately. Is everything okay with him? Sarah hesitated for a moment before responding. Yeah, he's just giving us space, she said, her tone a little too casual. He knows we're working through stuff, so he's backing off for now. It sounded reasonable enough, but something about it felt off. Jake wasn't the type to just step back, not after how involved he'd been in our lives. And then the thought hit me like a punch to the gut. What if Jake knows something I don't? What if that's why he's gone quiet? I didn't bring it up right away, but the doubt kept growing. I replayed everything in my mind, the sudden apology, the pregnancy announcement, Jake's absence. Was there more to this story? Was it possible that Jake had been more than just a best friend? And now, knowing about the baby, had he decided to step back because he thought it might be his? Sunday morning, I woke up early, unable to shake the thoughts. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. Sarah was still asleep beside me, looking peaceful, unaware of the storm brewing in my head. As I got up and made coffee, I kept going over the timeline in my mind. If Sarah had just found out she was pregnant, that meant the baby was conceived at least a couple of months ago, around the same time when things between us had been at their most strained, and she was spending a lot of time with Jake. The pieces started to fit together, and not in a good way. I couldn't bring myself to ask her outright, not yet, but the doubts were there, gnawing at me. Was this baby really mine? Or was it possible that Jake was the father, and that's why he had suddenly disappeared from her life? Throughout the day, I tried to act normal, but my mind was racing. I watched Sarah closely, looking for any signs that she might be hiding something. But she seemed genuinely happy, excited about the baby, and completely focused on us. It was confusing, to say the least. By Sunday night, I was emotionally drained. I knew I needed answers, but I wasn't sure how to get them without causing another fight. I didn't want to ruin what had been a good weekend, but I also couldn't keep these doubts bottled up inside. As Sarah was getting ready to leave, she noticed I was quieter than usual. You okay? She asked, concern in her eyes. Yeah, I lied. Just tired, I guess. She gave me a long hug before heading out, and as I watched her walk away, I felt a mix of emotions. Love, fear, doubt. I wanted to believe that everything was going to be okay, that we could move forward and be happy together. But those nagging doubts about Jake and the baby wouldn't let me rest. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling again, knowing that sooner or later, I'd have to confront this head on. The question wasn't just about the baby or Jake. It was about trust, and right now, I wasn't sure where we stood. After Sarah left on Sunday night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. The whole weekend, I'd been trying to convince myself that we were making progress, that things were finally looking up. But the doubts were still there, gnawing away at me, especially about the baby. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to how quiet things had gotten with Jake. The guy who couldn't go a day without texting or calling her was suddenly silent. It didn't add up. Something about it felt wrong, like there was more to the story than Sarah was letting on. That night, while I was sitting on the couch, her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten it on the coffee table. Normally, I wouldn't have even thought about looking at it, but my curiosity got the best of me. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. I didn't go in looking for trouble, but I couldn't help myself. I opened her messages, scrolling down to her chats with Jake. And what I saw stopped me cold. Jake had blocked her. There was no profile picture, no recent messages, nothing. Just the notification that said he had blocked her. Why would Jake block Sarah, especially now? Confused and feeling sick to my stomach, I scrolled further back in their chat history. That's when I found the conversation that changed everything. It was a series of messages from a couple of weeks ago, just before Sarah told me she was pregnant. Sarah, Jake, I'm pregnant. Jake, what, are you sure? Sarah, yes, I'm sure, I took a test. Jake, it could be his, right? Sarah, I don't know, Jake, I'm scared. Jake, if it's mine, I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a dad. You should think about getting an abortion. The messages kept going, but it was clear where Jake stood. He didn't want any part of it. And then, after that last message, he blocked her. Just like that. I sat there staring at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. She told him before she told me. And the fact that she wasn't even sure who the father was, it hit me like a ton of bricks. All the doubts, the uneasy feelings I'd been trying to push aside, they all came rushing to the surface. She had been cheating on me. There was no other way to explain it. Everything made sense now. The sudden apology, her emotional breakdown, Jake's sudden disappearance from her life. She was hoping I'd never find out, hoping she could sweep it under the rug. I waited until the next morning to confront her. She came over, smiling like everything was fine, but I couldn't keep it inside anymore. We need to talk, I said, my voice cold. She looked at me, confused. What's wrong? I held up her phone. I went through your messages with Jake. Her face went pale. What? I know, Sarah, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I know you told him about the baby before you told me. I know he told you to get an abortion because he didn't want to be a dad. And I know you didn't tell me the truth. She started to cry. I didn't know how to tell you, she whispered. I was scared. I felt my hands clench into fists, not out of anger, but out of pure frustration. You didn't know how to tell me? You didn't know who the father was, Sarah. You were sleeping with both of us, and you didn't think I deserved to know the truth? She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't plan for this to happen, she said softly. It just got out of control. I shook my head. And you thought keeping me in the dark was the best way to handle it? She wiped her tears away, trying to compose herself. I was going to tell you, eventually. I just needed time. Well, guess what? Time's up, I said, my voice hard. We're going to figure this out right now. I want a paternity test. She nodded, still crying. Okay. We got the test done a few days later, and the results came back quickly. I wasn't the father. I knew it deep down, but seeing it in black and white was like a knife to the heart. When I showed her the results, she broke down again. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even look at her. What about Jake? I asked. Have you told him? She shook her head. He refused to take a test. He doesn't want anything to do with it. That was it for me. I'd been through enough. Sarah, I'm done, I said firmly. I can't do this anymore. You lied to me, cheated on me, and now you expect me to stick around and help clean up the mess? I'm sorry, but I can't. She tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Please, she begged. We can fix this. No, Sarah, I said, my voice cold. There's no fixing this. I can't trust you anymore. I can't be with someone who lied to me like this. Don't contact me again. And with that, I walked away, leaving her standing there, sobbing. It hurt like hell, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I couldn't keep living in a lie, and I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect me enough to tell me the truth. Story 4. My fiancé ghosted me a week before the wedding. No calls, no explanation. Then I found out she was having closure with her ex. So I sold the ring and canceled everything. A few days later, she showed up crying at my job. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit. So I was supposed to get married in 1 week when this shit happened. My fiancé disappeared and didn't answer my calls. For a moment, I thought I'd find her dead in a ditch. Nope, she just needed some space. Apparently with her ex. Here's what went down. Let me set the scene before I dive into the nightmare. I'm 30 male, a project manager at a construction company. 5 years ago, I met Lucy, 29 female, at my buddy's housewarming. She was smart, gorgeous, and laughed at my jokes. Fast forward through dating, moving in together, the proposal, nailed it with a rooftop dinner, and we're planning our wedding. Everything was perfect except for one constant thorn in my side. Natalie, Lucy's college bestie and self-appointed guardian of female empowerment. Picture this chick. Yoga pants 24/7, constantly posting those inspirational quotes on Instagram, and always had something negative to say about me. This woman would roll her eyes whenever I spoke like it was her full-time job. My older brother Luke never trusted her. First time he met Natalie at a family BBQ, she started lecturing about toxic masculinity while he was grilling burgers. He just looked her dead in the eyes and said, "The only toxic thing I see is whatever the hell you put in your eyebrows to make them look like two slugs having a standoff." Lucy was pissed, but I nearly choked on my drink. Natalie was perpetually single, but considered herself a relationship expert who needed to protect Lucy from making mistakes. Yeah, one of those. Lucy always defended her. "She's just looking out for me." But every guy in our friend group knew the deal. Natalie was the friend who'd sabotage any relationship just to keep her friends single and miserable like her. Whenever we'd have a group outing, Natalie would find a way to pull Lucy aside for these intense whisper sessions. Lucy would come back with this weird look on her face, suddenly questioning plans we'd already made, or bringing up concerns that were clearly planted by Natalie. I called her out on it once, and Lucy hit me with the classic, "You're just being paranoid" defense. Natalie was like that one coworker who never actually does anything, but somehow ends up on every important email chain. Useless, loud, and constantly trying to add value by stirring the pot. Her whole personality was basically just a walking BuzzFeed quiz about red flags. I should have seen the red flags when Natalie started showing up unannounced at our apartment more frequently as the wedding date approached. She'd arrive with these Pinterest boards of alternative ceremony ideas that always seemed to involve pushing the date back. Or she'd bring over these documentaries about finding yourself before settling down that Lucy would get weirdly quiet after watching. Anyway, our wedding was a week away. 7 days. We'd spent months planning this thing, and I'm sitting in my apartment waiting for Lucy to show up for our final venue meeting. Table placements, meal counts, all that boring shit that suddenly becomes your whole life when you're getting married. 7 p.m. rolls around. No Lucy. Weird, but whatever. I should have known something was off when I realized she hadn't Venmo requested me for her daily overpriced matcha. This woman once reminded me I owed her $3.18 for gas from a Chipotle run. Radio silence was not normal. 8 p.m., still nothing. Multiple texts straight to voicemail. 9 p.m. That sick feeling hits your gut like when you're about to get fired. Lucy's phone is usually glued to her hand 24/7. This girl would text me from the bathroom, from meetings, while driving. I know. But suddenly, radio silence. By 10 p.m., I'm calling everyone we know. Her coworkers haven't seen her since she left work early for our venue appointment. Her gym buddy hasn't heard from her. I even called my buddy Finn, thinking maybe she was planning some surprise with him, but he was as clueless as I was. I call her sister Ashley. Nothing. Her parents. Nothing. By midnight, I'm legit freaking out. Drove to her apartment. Dark. Car gone. I used my emergency key to check inside, thinking maybe she'd fallen and couldn't reach her phone or something equally dramatic. Nothing. Bed made, dishes done, but her overnight bag was missing, along with some clothes from her closet. Filed a missing persons report the next day. The cop looked at me like I was overreacting. "Sir, adults are allowed to go places without telling their partners." I wanted to scream. This wasn't some random disappearance. This was a woman who texted me when she was switching from Instagram to TikTok, who called me on her lunch break every single day, who was supposed to be marrying me in a week. Day 2, her parents start freaking out too. They're calling hospitals, friends, even her old college roommates. Nothing. Her mom is convinced she's been kidnapped. I'm starting to think she might be right, but there's this tiny voice in my head whispering something worse. Day 3, police call. They found her safe and sound, chilling at her college friend Natalie's place 3 hours away. Relief hit me like a truck, followed immediately by the cold realization of what this meant. She wasn't kidnapped or hurt. She just left and told nobody. Not her family. Not me. Nothing. Police say she's safe and needs space. Needs space? A week before our wedding? I tried calling her. Straight to voicemail. I text her. "What the hell is going on? Are you okay? Is the wedding still on?" No response. I called Natalie's phone. No answer. I emailed Lucy. Nothing. It's like she's gone full witness protection program on me. Except the only crime she's witnessed is her own betrayal. But that wasn't even the full story. Later that night, I get a text from a number I don't recognize. "Hey, this is Cindy, Natalie's roommate. We've met a couple times at Lucy's birthday parties. Look, I can't stay silent about this anymore. Lucy isn't just taking space. She's with her ex, Jake. Then comes a picture that felt like a knife to the chest. Lucy and Jake, looking cozy on Natalie's couch, his arm around her. Timestamp? Yesterday. Jake. The ex she'd told me not to worry about. The guy she dated for 6 months in college before he couldn't commit. The same dude who conveniently started liking all her Instagram posts again right after we got engaged. Cindy's next text. She told Natalie she needed closure with him before the wedding. Natalie's been encouraging it. I thought you should know. This isn't right. I stared at that text for what felt like hours, my brain unable to process what I was seeing. Closure? A week before our wedding? Apparently in Natalie speak, closure means, let me check if my ex is still an option before I settle for you. I called my brother Luke. He's 38, divorced, and has the emotional sensitivity of a brick, but he's always straight with me. She's at Natalie's with her ex-boyfriend. Silence on the line. Then, well, god damn it, I knew that Natalie chick was bad news. What are you gonna do? After my brain unfroze from the shock, I made a decision. I had to make some calls. Each one felt like getting punched in the face. Venue. $5,000 deposit gone. Poof. Caterer. $3,500 vanished into thin air. Photographer. $2,000. Sorry, but we're booked that day now. Every vendor cancellation call felt like getting dumped all over again by strangers who took your money first. At least Lucy ghosted me for free. These people billed me before breaking my heart. Honeymoon flights, non-refundable. $1,800 down the drain. Resort booking, non-refundable. $7,500 for that dream Maldives getaway Lucy had insisted on, because apparently her dream was to ghost me a week before committing to me for life. Every call, every email was another nail in the coffin of what was supposed to be our future. All told, I was looking at about $15,000 in losses. And that's just my part. Her parents were handling her dress, and were supposed to pay the florist directly later, but I'd put down the initial booking deposit. Luke sat on my couch, watching me make these calls. When I hung up from the venue, he just shook his head. This is why I got married at the courthouse. Cost me $75. Divorce still cost $20,000, but at least the wedding was cheap. Then there were the calls to family and friends. Weddings off. I didn't tell anyone about Jake, just said things didn't work out. My mom cried. My dad kept asking, "What happened, son?" Like I had any freaking clue how to explain this betrayal. My cousin Pete, who'd booked a flight from Seattle. Dude, are you serious? I just paid $600 for a non-refundable ticket. My best man Trevor, who'd planned this epic bachelor party in Vegas that was supposed to happen this weekend. What the hell, man? I put down deposits for everything. My grandma Ruth, who was looking forward to seeing me get married before she kicked the bucket. Her words. Matthew, does this mean I return the china set I bought you to? I kept the receipt just in case. I've been married 3 times, so I know how these things go. I texted Cindy back, thanks for telling me. Honestly, did Lucy know you were sending this? She replied quickly, no way. Natalie would kill me. She's been telling Lucy that she deserves to explore all her options before settling down. Natalie's been bad-mouthing you for years. Convinced Lucy she was rushing into marriage. Great. So while I was picking out wedding cake flavors, my fiancée was being poisoned against me by her toxic friend and reconnecting with her ex. Cool. Then there was the ring. 1.5 carat cushion cut. Vintage inspired. Her dream ring. Cost me $15,000. I took it to a jeweler and got $9,800. Less than I hoped, more than I feared. That money went straight into offsetting my losses, which were still massive. The jeweler, an older guy named Saul, gave me this knowing look when I brought it in. Let me guess. She changed her mind? When I nodded, he sighed. Happens more than you'd think. Had a guy in here last week selling a ring he bought 3 years ago. Found out his wife was having an affair with her CrossFit instructor. Life's a bitch, kid. I packed up every single thing of hers in my apartment. Photos, clothes, that stupid carnival teddy bear I won her. Boxed, labeled. Ready for whenever she decided to show her face again. Found one of those self-love crystals in my drawer too. The kind that supposedly wards off bad energy. Guess it expired before she ran off with her ex. Should have taped it to the door as a boomerang gift. I also printed that picture Cindy sent and tucked it into the box with our wedding invitations. A little time capsule of betrayal. Luke helped me pack her stuff. He picked up a framed photo of us and snorted. Look at your face here. That's the face of a man who doesn't know his fiancée is about to pull a Houdini. Should have seen it coming when she put that live laugh love sign in your bathroom. While sorting through her things, I found a journal she'd left behind. I'm not usually the type to snoop, but given the circumstances, I figured all bets were off. Flipping through it, I found entries from 3 months ago, where she'd written about seeing Jake at a coffee shop by coincidence, and how it had stirred up old feelings that she needed to process. There were pages about Natalie encouraging her to explore these emotions before getting married. Reading those words felt like being stabbed repeatedly. She'd been planning this. It wasn't some sudden cold feat. It was a calculated decision to test drive her ex before committing to me. And Natalie, that manipulative snake, had been the architect of it all. I added the journal to the box of her things. Evidence. Not that I needed it for myself. The picture from Cindy was damning enough, but in case anyone tried to spin this narrative that I was the bad guy in this situation. Day 4 of Ghost Bride Saga, still no direct contact from Lucy. Her parents are now calling me, demanding to know why I'm canceling everything without giving her a chance to explain. I tell them their daughter is at Natalie's house, deliberately ignoring my calls, and has effectively abandoned our wedding. I don't mention Jake. Not my story to tell. Her dad, Christopher, actually has the audacity to say, "Young people get cold feet sometimes. It's normal. Lucy's always been sensitive. You should be more understanding." Understanding? I literally had to file a missing persons report because your daughter couldn't be bothered to send a text before running off with her ex a week before our wedding. But sure, I'm the unreasonable one. 5 days of silence. Nothing from Lucy. Then the other shoe drops. I'm at work, middle of a client meeting. My colleague Nancy pokes her head in. "Matthew? Sorry. Visitor says it's urgent." I walk out to reception, and there she is. Lucy, puffy eyes, messy hair, looking like she's been crying for a week. "Matthew," she says, voice all thick with tears. Tries to step in for a hug. I step back. "What are you doing here?" I keep my voice low. Nancy at the desk is suddenly very interested in her computer screen. "We need to talk," she whispers, tears welling up. "Please, it's all been a horrible mistake." "A mistake? Ghosting me and your family a week before our wedding to hook up with your ex is a mistake? Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. This was a tactical nuclear strike on our relationship." "I know. I freaked out. I got scared. Natalie said some things and I just panicked. I didn't know how to face you. I was ashamed. Matthew, I still love you. I want to fix this." She reaches for my hand. I pull away. "Fix this?" I say, disbelief in my voice. "Lucy, there's nothing to fix. It's done. I canceled everything. Wedding's off. Permanently." Her face crumples, then morphs into something harder. "You can't do that without consulting me. That was our wedding. Those were our plans. Plans you abandoned when you disappeared. I needed space." Her voice rising now. "And closure. You never understood that. Always hovering, always wanting to know where I was. Now I'm the controlling boyfriend for checks notes, wondering where my fiancé vanished to a week before our wedding." "And what about Natalie?" I asked, watching her reaction. "Will she be at the rebooked wedding too?" Lucy's eyes widened slightly. "Natalie was just trying to help me sort through my feelings. She's always looked out for me." "Yeah, I bet she has," I said flatly. "Your feelings seem to have led you to some interesting places." She looked confused for a second, then quickly recovered. "I just needed time to think, to be sure. You owe me that, at least. After 5 years together, you owe me the chance to explain." "I don't owe you anything, Lucy. You're being completely unreasonable," she snapped, mask slipping. "This isn't all about you. I've been under so much pressure with the wedding planning. You try dealing with all the expectations. It's not fair." Translation. Jake wasn't interested in rekindling things, so I'm her backup plan. No thanks. The way she was acting, you'd think she was the one who'd been abandoned. Like I had somehow wronged her by having the audacity to cancel a wedding after the bride went AWOL. It was next-level delusional. Nancy was pretending not to listen, but I could see her eyes getting wider with each exchange. Tomorrow's office gossip was writing itself right in front of her. "Lucy, I'm in the middle of a client meeting. I can't do this right now." "Of course," she sniffed. "Your work is always more important than our relationship." I nearly laughed out loud at the absurdity. Our relationship? The one you put on pause while you went for a test drive with your ex? That relationship? Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't—" "Save it, Lucy. I know about Jake." The look on her face was priceless. Shock, followed by guilt, followed by the desperate calculation of someone trying to figure out how much I knew and how to spin it. That's not what it looks like," she stammered. "Jake and I just talked. As friends. Natalie thought it would help give me perspective." "Perspective on what?" Whether you were settling for me? Whether he was a better option? Did you get your answer, by the way? Because it seems like you're back here, which suggests Jake wasn't interested in round two. Tears started streaming down her face again. Right on cue. You're being cruel. I made a mistake. I was confused and scared and… Lucy, I sold the ring. You're wasting our time. That stopped her. Her jaw literally dropped like in those cartoon movies. You what? Sold it. As I said, I lost over $15,000 in non-refundable deposits. The $9,800 from the ring barely made a dent, but it was necessary. You sold my ring? Her voice rising. That was my ring! My grandmother's setting was the inspiration. How could you? Your ring. I bought it for a wedding that you abandoned. It was a symbol of a commitment that you spat on. Inspiration doesn't make it an heirloom when I paid for it. But the money, she sputtered. What about it? It partially covered the venue, caterer, honeymoon, consequences of your actions, which still left me massively out of pocket. She just stared at me. You have to give it to me. That money is partly mine. We were getting married. We were. Past tense. No, I don't have to do anything except protect myself from further damage. My boss walks out, drawn by her rising voice. Everything all right, Matthew? Personal matter, Mr. Donaldson. Being resolved, I say, giving Lucy the get-out look. Lucy actually appeals to my boss. He sold my engagement ring and canceled our wedding without talking to me, she wails. Mr. Donaldson looks uncomfortable as hell. I'm sure he wasn't expecting to deal with relationship drama today. Lucy, this is inappropriate. Leave now, I say, trying to keep my voice level. But Matthew, our families, the deposits my parents paid. Your parents paid for your dress, which I assume you still have. They were supposed to pay the florist directly, but they hadn't when I had to cancel. I got stuck with their $1,400 cancellation fee because I made the initial booking. That added to my already huge losses. I have receipts for everything. You can discuss those charges with your parents. She looked slapped, ugly crying now. I made a mistake. Don't I deserve compassion? I leaned in slightly and lowered my voice. Compassion? Maybe explain why you needed closure with Jake at Natalie's place. You've been spying on me? She hissed, completely ignoring everything else I said. I didn't need to spy. People talk, Lucy. Not everyone thinks what you did was okay. She switched tactics so fast it gave me whiplash. I've been through trauma, Matthew. Do you have any idea what it's like to have anxiety about commitment? I'm suffering here. You're trying to punish me for having a mental health crisis. Oh, great. Now she's weaponizing mental health. Classic. This isn't finished, she said, gathering what little dignity she had left. You'll be hearing from my lawyer about that ring money. Oh, it definitely is, I replied. In the immortal words of Terminator 2, hasta la vista, baby. Nancy actually snorted behind her computer as Lucy stormed out, nearly tripping over a plant. Mr. Donaldson, to his credit, just gave me a sympathetic nod and said, Take the rest of the day if you need it, Matthew. I declined. Work was actually the one place where I could focus on something other than the dumpster fire my personal life had become. Later, when I told Luke about the workplace ambush, he nearly fell off his chair laughing. She showed up at your job? That's some gone girl shit right there. Next thing you know, she'll be writing a memoir called My Escape from Patriarchy: How I Survived a Week at My Friend's House with My Ex-Boyfriend. The audacity is what gets me, I told him. She acts like I'm the villain for canceling a wedding she abandoned. Like I should have just sat around, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for her to decide if she wanted to be with me or Jake. Women, man, Luke said, shaking his head. My ex-wife pulled something similar. Told me she needed to find herself and went on a yoga retreat in Bali. Came back 3 weeks later with a tattoo and a Brazilian surfing instructor named Paulo. Said she wanted an open marriage. I told her she could have an open divorce instead. That night, I checked my email to find a message from a lawyer named Gerald, claiming to represent Lucy in the matter of unlawfully disposed property, aka the ring. He was demanding I return the full value of $15,000, not the $9,800 I got for it, plus emotional damages of $5,000. I forwarded it to my cousin Jen, who happens to be a lawyer, with the subject line, Can you believe this shit? She called me 10 minutes later, laughing so hard she could barely speak. Is this for real? She's trying to sue you for selling a ring after she ghosted you before the wedding? And she wants emotional damages? What's her claim? That you deprived her of the opportunity to pawn it herself. Apparently it has a sentimental value, I said, mimicking Lucy's whiny voice. Yeah, well, sentimentality doesn't hold up in court, Jen said. Engagement rings are conditional gifts, contingent upon marriage. No marriage, No entitlement to the ring. Basic contract law. I'll draft a response that'll make this Pinkman guy crawl back under his ambulance chasing rock. That night, Lucy's mom calls. Let's call her Karen, you'll know why. Karen has always been concerned with appearances. Polite but judgmental as hell. The type who'd smile while insulting your entire existence. She once asked me if I was comfortable in my limited career, or if I had aspirations. Classic Karen. Matthew, she begins, fake sweetness dripping. Lucy is beside herself, distraught. I can imagine, I say dryly. Screaming in someone's workplace is tiring. Sharp intake of breath. Now you listen here, young man. I will not tolerate that tone. My daughter is the injured party in all this. How rich. She made a mistake, yes, but your response has been completely disproportionate. Selling her ring? Canceling everything without consulting anyone? Do you know how this makes our family look? And there it was. Not concerned about her daughter's behavior, just how it looks. She had the audacity to suggest Lucy's amends should involve me reinstating the wedding and returning ring money. When I called this delusional, she pivoted to sentimental value arguments about the ring design, a design picked from a catalog. Karen reminded me they'd paid for Lucy's dress and given us $5,000 for the honeymoon. I explained that money went to the non-refundable Maldives resort Lucy insisted on. I had receipts and bank statements to prove it. Improper for you to have kept that money. I'll be speaking to our attorney about this, she threatened. God, they're all lawyer happy. When I detailed the florist cancellation fee I'd covered when they defaulted on their portion, Karen exploded. Outrageous! You're trying to extort us. I want to speak to your parents about this immediately. They need to know what kind of son they raised. Her defense reached peak absurdity when she claimed, Lucy just got scared. Young girls do these things. I myself had doubts before marrying Christopher. It's perfectly normal. She's 29, Karen, not 19. Decent people don't do these things. I almost mentioned Jake and Natalie, but held back. If Lucy hadn't told them, I wasn't going to be the one to drop that bomb. Let her deal with her own mess. This went on. Astounding entitlement. She genuinely believed because Lucy was sorry, a sorry I hadn't heard meaningfully, all burdens should vanish or be mine. She even suggested I apologize to Lucy for selling her ring. You need to do the right thing here, Matthew. Lucy is willing to forgive you if you apologize and replace the ring. She's being very generous considering how you've embarrassed her. I was tempted to say, you know what? I'll give her the ring money when she pays for the trust issues I'll have for the rest of my life. But I kept it professional. Luke's response when I told him about Karen's call. Wait, so her daughter disappears for a week before your wedding, hooks up with her ex, then comes crying back when he doesn't want her, and you're supposed to apologize? What's next? You gonna write her a thank you note for destroying your life? These people live in a different reality, bro. Honestly, Luke should start a podcast. Just him roasting relationship disasters and bad in-laws. Call it No Ring, No Refund. I'd subscribe twice. Karen's call was just the beginning. The next day, Lucy's dad, Christopher, hit me with an email that somehow managed to be even more condescending. He went full man-to-man mode, claiming we needed to resolve this like gentlemen. According to him, Lucy was just overwhelmed by wedding planning. The nerve of this dude suggesting I should forgive a momentary lapse in judgment blew my mind. Momentary? She ghosted everyone for over a week. These people were living in some parallel universe where disappearing before your wedding was just a quirky personality trait. Unreal. I kept my response short and sweet. A single line promising a comprehensive breakdown of all wedding-related expenses. Then Lucy's sister Ashley called. Ashley had always been the reasonable one in the family. Matt, I'm so sorry about all this. I know Lucy messed up big time. Mom and Dad are being ridiculous. Thanks, Ashley. That means a lot. For what it's worth, I don't think she deserves another chance. Who does that to someone they supposedly love? And a week before the wedding? It's insane. At least someone in that family had their head screwed on straight. But Lucy's parents continued harassing me. So I sent one message to Karen. I'm sending you, Christopher and Lucy, an itemized list of all wedding-related expenses that I managed or was left responsible for. It will clearly show who these costs were originally owed by or who caused the loss. It will show that no one's profiting, least of all me, and will clearly state the $1,400 florist bill I covered on your behalf. Reimburse me or not. Your choice. But further demands will get a cease and desist from an attorney. Clear? Dead quiet. Then, you wouldn't dare. Do you know who Christopher's golf buddies are? We have connections in this town. Classic Karen threat. Try me. Hung up. Not pleasant, but rage was a clean fire. They thought they could bully me into paying for Lucy's enormous mistake. Next day, I did it. Created a meticulous spreadsheet. Every vendor, every deposit, dates, scanned receipts, highlighted the florist cancellation fee I was forced to cover, attached ring sale proof, and how that only partially offset my losses. I debated whether to include the photo Cindy sent me. In the end, I decided against it. My goal wasn't nuclear warfare, just establishing boundaries and facts. But I did save that in case things escalated. 3 copies. Registered mail, return receipt. For Lucy, for her parents. Luke looked over the spreadsheet before I sent it. Damn, bro. This is the most beautiful screw you I've ever seen. It's like poetry, but with numbers. Brings a tear to my eye. Then I texted Cindy, "Hey, just wanted to say thanks again for being honest with me. Has there been any fallout your end?" She replied, "Natalie's been sketchy. Knows someone told you something." Lucy moved out yesterday after a big fight with Natalie. Apparently, Jake made it clear he was just having fun, wasn't interested in getting back together. Natalie told Lucy she deserved better than both of you. Toxic AF. The irony? Natalie blew up Lucy's life just to prove some twisted point, then kicked her out the moment things got inconvenient. Loyalty? Sponsored by TikTok therapy and $12 iced lattes. So Lucy wasn't even staying with Natalie anymore. After her office stunt, the falling out with Natalie, and the rejection from Jake, she was back with her parents. My spreadsheet landed mid-reunion. The next day, I'm at work. Long day at a construction site. I get home around 7 p.m., and immediately something feels off. The air smells different, like her perfume. Lucy had been there. I'd texted her earlier that she could pick up her stuff from the boxes in the living room while I was at work. Just grab it and go. I'd leave the door unlocked between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Turns out she'd waited until later. I walk into my office and freeze. My custom gaming PC, the one I'd built myself, spent thousands on, the thing that got me through college, is absolutely destroyed. The tower is on the floor, side panel bashed in, components scattered. Someone had clearly taken a hammer or bat to it. Water from the cooling system is pooled on the floor. My hands are shaking as I pick up a piece of the graphics card. A $1,200 RTX card I'd saved for months to buy. Snapped in half. There's a note stuck to my monitor. Now we're even. L. Even. I'm seeing red but force myself to think. First, I called my neighbor Jeff. He's got one of those Ring doorbells that faces my place. I asked if his doorbell camera caught anyone coming to my place today. Yeah, actually. Your girlfriend stopped by around 5:30. Thought that was odd since, ex-fiance. And yeah, it is odd. Any chance you could send me that footage? Sure thing, man. The footage shows Lucy clear as day, walking into my apartment at 5:38 p.m., carrying what looks like a small sledgehammer. WTF? She leaves at 5:52 p.m., looking smug. Brother She left my place like she just dropped the hottest diss track of the year, like Kanye storming out of an interview. Meanwhile, I'm standing over my graphics card like it's a war crime scene. I take photos of everything. The damage, the note, close-ups of the broken components. Then I text Lucy, "Why the fuck did you destroy my PC?" 3 dots appear immediately. She's been waiting for this. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? So that wasn't you entering my apartment with a hammer at 5:38 p.m. today? Silence for a minute. Then, "You deserved it after what you did to me?" Gotcha. Screenshot saved. What exactly did I do to deserve $3,000 worth of property damage? You humiliated me. You destroyed our future. You sold my ring. And that justifies criminal destruction of property? Great. Thanks for the confession. The police will be interested in that, along with my neighbor's security footage. You wouldn't dare. It would be your word against mine. I send her the screenshot of her own confession. It's not your word against mine when you just admitted to it in writing. Plus, I have video of you entering with a weapon. I filed a police report about the PC. Had to go through small claims court to get the money for the damages. But with the evidence I had, it was pretty straightforward. Lucy tried to fight it, claiming I had emotionally damaged her. But the judge wasn't buying it. Ordered her to pay $2,800 for the PC Plus court costs. It's been a few months now. Life just keeps going. After I sent that financial truth bomb and won the small claims case, things settled into silence. Blessed, golden silence. No more calls from Karen, no tearful ambushes from Lucy. I never got the $1,400 for the florist. Knew I wouldn't. Prying money from self-righteous Karen would be like baptizing a cat. But the principle was asserted. The spreadsheet detailed my complete financial burden, including covering their lapse. Lucy did pay the $2,800 for my PC, though. The court gave her 30 days, and on day 29, a check arrived. No note, just the exact amount. Small victories. What I did get was this gem from Ashley about a month ago. You are not going to believe this. Or maybe you will. Lucy tried to get mom and dad to pay for a healing retreat for her trauma from the wedding cancellation and the legal persecution. $3,000. Dad actually said no. Flat out said her healing could start with getting a job and paying back the deposits. They did lose on her dress and alterations. Mom's giving dad the silent treatment. Lucy's having a hysterical circus. That right there was better than any $1,400. Entitlement hitting the family brick wall. Christopher finding his voice. Even better, Ashley dropped this bomb. By the way, Cindy sent that picture of Lucy and Jake to mom. Said she couldn't stand the lies anymore. Mom confronted Lucy. It was apocalyptic. Lucy tried to say it was innocent, just closure. But mom wasn't buying it. Dad actually packed a bag and went to stay with my uncle for 3 days. First time I've ever seen him walk out. Luke and I were playing Call of Duty on my new PC, upgraded thanks to Lucy's court-ordered payment, when I told him about the healing retreat. He nearly choked on his drink. A healing retreat? For what? Terminal entitlement? Advanced narcissism? I swear these people think reality is optional. What's next? A GoFundMe for her emotional support unicorn? My life's good now. Sold our couch, bought a new one just for me. Reclaimed my space. Gym regularly. Works solid. Mr. Donaldson even gave me a promotion after seeing how I handled the Lucy situation at the office. Dating? Hell no. My brother's take your time, bro. You just dodged a bullet that would have made Neo from the Matrix proud. Enjoy the freedom. She faced consequences of her choices. As my dad always says, the best revenge is living well. She made her bed. Now she's lying in it with her parents, complaining. I'm sleeping just fine in my drama-free apartment, playing Elden Ring on my upgraded PC that Lucy involuntarily helped finance. No random sobbing. No can we talk? Texts at 2 a.m. No stepping on hair clips in the bathroom. Just me, my controller, a stocked fridge, and the satisfying hum of a GPU that didn't cheat on me. As the great poet Ice Cube once said, today was a good day. Story 5. This story is titled, My Girlfriend Got Groomed into Cheating on Valentine's Day by Her Friend's Insane Loyalty Test. And it blew up in their faces. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Sup Reddit, gonna need you guys to bear with me because this is a pretty messed up situation and I need to get it all out. Never thought I'd be posting here, but honestly don't know who else to talk to about this whole thing. I'm 27, male, dealing with drama from my girlfriend. 25 female. So this story starts back in high school, senior year. Picture this. Ya boy's standing in the school parking lot next to my dad's restored 67 Mustang. He let me borrow it for prom, cause my Civic wasn't exactly prom material. My date had just texted saying she got back with her ex or whatever. Typical high school drama. I'm legit about to just head home and probably play some COD all night when this girl Jen walks by, looking all stressed. Turns out her friend who was supposed to drive her just didn't show up. No text, no call, nothing. She's standing there in her prom dress with her phone dead. Classic 2014 iPhone battery life, am I right? We got talking and I don't know, man, something just clicked. She was actually into cars and knew what a 289 V8 was. Her dad restored classics too. That was pretty much it for me. We ended up going to prom together and honestly had the best time. She wasn't trying to be all fancy or impress anyone, just vibing and making fun of the DJ's horrible music choices with me. After prom, we went to this 24-hour diner with some friends, and she ordered a massive plate of cheese fries and didn't do that fake, I'm not hungry thing. Real ones know what I'm talking about. Fast forward through college, we did long distance because she went to state and I went to tech, but we made it work. Every other weekend, I'd drive my beat-up Civic 3 hours to see her, or she'd take the bus to come see me. We'd game together online when we couldn't meet up. She was actually better at Rocket League than me, but don't tell anyone I admitted that. That's also when I met Jake. First day of freshman year, we're in the same computer science class and both wearing the same Metallica shirt. Started hanging out, found out we were both into bikes. He had this clapped-out Ninja 250 that barely ran, and I had just gotten my license. We spent more weekends fixing that bike than riding it TBH. After graduation, Jake and I had this crazy idea to start our own consulting business. Everyone said we were stupid to turn down our corporate offers, but Jen supported it 100%. She was working entry-level at some marketing firm, but would bring us energy drinks and pizza during our all-nighters coding. She even learned some basic HTML, CSS to help us with our first client's website when we couldn't afford to hire anyone. Those first 2 years were rough, man. Living off ramen, working out of my garage because we couldn't afford office space, taking any client we could get. Jen never complained once. She'd sit in the garage with us, working on her laptop, ordering cheap Chinese food, and just being there. Even helped us pick our company name and designed our first logo. Then things started picking up. We landed a big client, then another, and suddenly we had enough money to rent actual office space. Jen got promoted at her job too. Life was good, you know? We moved in together, got a decent apartment. I bought my street bob, 2018 if anyone's wondering, and she'd go on rides with me on weekends. Nothing crazy, just cruising around, finding new coffee spots. Everything changed when Jake met his girl Kate, 26 female, at some tech conference in the city. She was handling marketing for this startup that ended up going nowhere. But man, that chick talk a big game. First time I met her, something felt off, like she was interviewing for a job instead of meeting her boyfriend's friends. Every conversation somehow turned into this TED Talk about personal branding and leveraging social media presence. Before Kate, our weekends were simple. Working on bikes, gaming, maybe hitting up a car meet. After, suddenly everything had to be these fancy brunches where she'd spend the whole time talking about her follower count and networking opportunities. Jake was eating it up though. Started wearing these weird designer clothes and talking about his personal brand too. The real problem started when Jen began hanging out with Kate more. At first it was subtle. She stopped stealing my band shirts to sleep in. Said they didn't look good on her Instagram. Started doing these juice cleanses instead of our morning coffee runs. Then it got worse. Suddenly all our date nights turned into networking events and professional development seminars. My girl, who used to help me change oil on the bike, started complaining about breaking her nails. She even made me move my bike tools from the garage to the storage unit because they didn't fit the apartment's aesthetic. Like what? Jake and Kate got engaged on New Year's, but kept it quiet. Kate wanted to do some big announcement thing at their Valentine's party. Should have known something was up when she insisted on making it this fancy dinner party instead of our usual gaming night. After they got engaged, Jen changed completely. She's suddenly signing up for all these professional networking events that Kate recommended, spending crazy money on clothes she'd never wear before. Next thing I know, Jen's got a whole new wardrobe that looks exactly like Kate's style. She's even trying to talk like her, using words like synergy and personal brand optimization, unironically. One day I'm working late at the office, fixing some code for a client deadline. Jen texts saying she's networking with Kate. Cool, nothing unusual there. But then my boy Chris rides a sick customized Road King, texts me a pic. Jen and Kate at this fancy rooftop bar with a bunch of suits, and Jen's practically hanging off this dude's every word. Chris was there meeting clients and knew something looked off. I finally had enough and tried talking to her about it one night after she bailed on our weekly game night for another one of Kate's networking mixers. Hey, can we talk for a second? I remember sitting on our couch, trying to keep it casual. What? She barely looked up from her phone. I miss hanging out, you know. Like, when's the last time we went to a bike meet? Or had game night with the crew? Man, the look she gave me. Like I just suggested we live in a cave or something. Oh my God, is that what this is about? Your little bike meets? She actually did air quotes. Kate's right, you know. You're holding me back with all this garage stuff. Holding you back? From what? From reaching my potential. Look at Kate. She's got 50,000 followers and companies fighting to work with her. What am I supposed to tell people? That my boyfriend's idea of networking is pizza and PlayStation? I just sat there for a minute. Like, who even was this person? This wasn't my Jen who used to get excited about new game releases and help me pick out bike parts. Level up my network. She actually said that with a straight face, followed by some speech about how Kate was opening her eyes to new opportunities and how I should be thinking bigger. When I pointed out she used to love our game nights, she just rolled her eyes and said, yeah, when I was settling. After 10 years together, she was calling our life settling. I had a feeling that there's more into this Kate that got Jen hooked. I started noticing Jen texting all hours. She'd jump every time her phone buzzed. Changed her password too. Not that I ever checked her phone, but we used to know each other's in case of emergencies. She said it was for work privacy, but man, should have seen what was really going on. Then she stopped coming to our weekend car meets. These meets were our thing since high school, where we first really connected. Instead, she's suddenly all about these fancy charity galas and networking events that Kate keeps inviting her to. Always said I could come too, but had this tone like my regular clothes weren't good enough. Jake seemed different too. Started skipping our Tuesday night gaming sessions. Kept saying he was busy with work, but his Steam status showed him online. When we did hang out, he was weird about talking about Kate or Jen. I actually started feeling bad about how my relationship with Jen started to feel. Like maybe I was the problem. Maybe I should be going to these networking events instead of working on my bike or gaming with the boys. I started wearing business casual to the office instead of my usual jeans and tees. Even considered selling the street bob because Jen said it didn't fit our new lifestyle. During that time, Jake decides to throw this Valentine's Day party at his place. Not his usual style, we normally just grab pizza and play Elden Ring or something. But Kate was all about making it this fancy dinner party thing. Whatever, I figured we'd survive one night of pretending to be fancy. The day starts with Jen literally spending 4 hours getting ready. Not even exaggerating. She's locked in our bathroom from 3 p.m. I'm sitting there in my room trying to get some work done, had a client project due. And every time I ask if she's okay, she snaps at me saying she needs to look perfect. This from the girl who used to get ready for dates in 20 minutes max. Finally, she comes out wearing this red dress that probably cost more than my first bike. Now look, I'm not usually the type to comment on what anyone wears, but this wasn't a nice dress for a party situation. This was a trying to get stares situation. When I asked about it, trying to be casual like new dress, she gets all defensive saying I should be happy to have such a hot girlfriend. Bruh, what? I rode my bike to work that day because it was nice out, so we had to take her car to Jake's place. Whole ride there, she's glued to her phone, fixing her makeup at every red light, barely saying 2 words to me. I tried making conversation about this new project at work, and she straight up tells me to be quiet because she's trying to concentrate. On what? Taking selfies? Get to Jake's place, and it's like I stopped existing. The moment we walk in, she makes a beeline for Jake. Didn't even wait for me to hang up our coats. Just speed walked over to him in these heels she could barely walk in, leaving me standing there like an idiot. There were like 8 other couples there, all friends from college and work. Everyone's dressed nice but normal, you know? But Jen's over here looking like she's trying to be on Real Housewives or whatever. And the way she was acting, man. You know when you see someone trying way too hard and it's just painful to watch? Yeah, that. She spent the entire night following Jake around, laughing at every single thing he said like he was Dave Chappelle or something. Keep in mind, Jake tells dad jokes. Bad ones. She's touching his arm, flipping her hair, doing all that obvious flirting stuff. Meanwhile, Kate's watching this whole thing and not saying a word, which should have tipped me off that something weird was going on. My boy Chris, the one with the Road King, pulls me aside during the party. He's like, "Bro, is everything okay with you and Jen?" Says his wife Sarah was getting uncomfortable watching Jen throw herself at Jake. And Chris is the most oblivious dude I know. If he noticed something was wrong, you know it was bad. Dinner was when it got really stupid. Jake had these place cards set up. Somehow between the kitchen and dining room, Jen managed to switch them around so she was sitting next to Jake instead of me. Middle school moves. So I ended up stuck between Kate and someone's random cousin. The whole dinner was just brutal. Jen's basically in Jake's lap, feeding him food from her plate. Who does that? I glared at her to have a sense of respect, but she didn't understand what I'm trying to say. She kept making these weird comments about how good he looks in a suit. Jake's trying to play it cool, keeping his responses short, but Jen's not taking the hint. Meanwhile, Kate's just sitting there with this weird little smile, watching everything like she's taking notes for later. That's when Jen pulls her little accident. We're all sitting there finishing dinner when she knocks over her glass, spilling it all over that red dress. Now listen, this is the same girl who once parallel parked my lowered Civic in stilettos while holding a full McDonald's coffee. She doesn't just accidentally spill stuff. The way she jumped up, though, you'd think she'd spilled lava or something. "Oh my God, Jake! Can you help me clean this up?" Her voice went all high-pitched, like those girls in anime when they're trying to be cute. Everyone at the table just kind of froze. I counted to 30 in my head. 30 seconds. That's how long I waited, staring at my plate, wondering if I was being paranoid. Chris caught my eye across the table, giving me this look like, "You gonna check on that?" So I got up to check on them. The kitchen door was one of those swinging ones. I pushed it open slowly, didn't make a sound. And there they were. Jen had Jake pinned against the sink, and she was doing that thing with her hair she used to do when we first started dating. Jake's holding paper towels like a shield between them, looking mad uncomfortable. You ever been so angry you actually feel cold? Like your whole body just goes into this weird calm state? I stood there watching my high school sweetheart trying to seduce my best friend in someone else's kitchen, and everything just went quiet in my head. "Jen, What the actual fuck is this? Jen spun around so fast she almost fell. For a split second, she looked guilty. Then, man, it was like watching someone put on a mask. Her whole face changed. Oh my god. Are you seriously spying on me right now? She went from 0 to nuclear in half a second. I can't believe you don't trust me. What, I can't even talk to Jake without you getting jealous? This is exactly what I mean about you being controlling. Jake still got those paper towels in his hands, looking at the floor like it's got the secrets of the universe written on it. Not saying a word. Some best friend, right? I could hear people in the dining room going quiet, chairs scraping as they tried to get a better listen. Kate appeared in the doorway, and I swear she had this tiny smirk on her face. I walked straight out the front door, past all our friends who were pretending not to stare, past the couples who were whispering to each other. Could hear her heels clicking on the hardwood behind me, getting faster and louder as she followed me down the hallway. She kept calling my name, her voice getting more desperate with each step. Made it to the driveway with her still following, still calling out. Even tried grabbing my arm at one point, but I just kept walking. Got in my car and drove off, watching her get smaller in my rearview mirror. Just standing there in that red dress in Jake's driveway, probably realizing this wasn't going according to whatever plan she had. Got a text at 3 a.m. Staying at Amy's. Don't wait up. Like this was just another night out. Like I hadn't caught her with her hands all over my best friend. That night I crashed at my brother's place. He's got this sweet basement setup with an old PS4 and a mini fridge. Basically lived down there for 2 weeks straight. My phone was blowing up the whole time. Like 50 plus missed calls from Jen, hundreds of texts going from, "You're overreacting," to, "I miss you, baby, please come home," to, "You're being a childish jerk." My brother kept telling me to stay put, saying something wasn't adding up. After spending 2 weeks at my brother's place, I wrapped up work early one day. We just landed a big contract, so I was in a pretty good mood. Figured it was the right time to head home and have a real talk about everything. I didn't tell her I was coming. I wanted to catch her as she was, not prepped with fake tears or some rehearsed speech. I took my bike because it was actually decent weather for February, like 50 degrees, practically summer for you guys in Minnesota. Pull up to our apartment complex, and the first thing I see is Jake's lifted F-150 in my parking spot. You know, the spot I specifically paid extra for to keep my bike covered. Now my brain's trying to come up with excuses. Maybe Jake's there to apologize. Maybe they're talking about work. Jen's company sometimes contracted with us for tech stuff. But something in my gut just knew. I still had my key. Thank God I didn't mail it back when she asked. The moment I walk in, I hear music playing. Not just any music, the same playlist she made for our first anniversary. The one with all these cheesy love songs we used to make fun of but secretly liked. Our apartment isn't big. Basically just a living room, kitchen, one bedroom. I can hear laughing from the living room. Walk in and, yeah, there's Jen and Jake sitting on our couch. They were so close, talking, giggling, and looking intimate. What got me suffocated was that she was wearing that fucking red dress. They had this fancy cheese board set up. Jake trying to be all sophisticated now because of Kate. Like it was some kind of special occasion. They both jumped up when they saw me. Jake started with the "this isn't what it looks like" BS. Jen just sat there, looking shocked, like she couldn't believe I had the nerve to come to my own apartment. I didn't say anything, didn't yell, didn't flip out, just turned around and walked out. Could hear Jen running after me in the hallway, those same heels clicking on the floor that she wore to the party. She caught up to me at the elevator, grabbing my arm, crying about how she could explain everything. According to her, she invited Jake over to talk about me, said she was trying to get him to convince me to come back home. Right, because you need to wear a red cocktail dress and set up a whole damn spread for that conversation. The worst part? She kept going with the excuses. Said the dress was just because she wanted to look nice. Said the music was just on shuffle. Yeah, right. That specific playlist just happened to be playing. I fired up my bike and ripped out of there, full throttle, no hesitation. Didn't look back, didn't think, just rode, fast, hard. The roar of the engine drowned out everything. The betrayal, the bullshit, the pathetic excuses. I wasn't running away. I was leaving that whole damn mess in the dust where it belonged. I rode until the rage settled into something sharper, something colder. Pulled into a late-night garage I knew, one where real bikers worked, men who didn't deal in fake friendships and backstabbing. Stripped off my jacket, grabbed a wrench, and went to work. Needed to put my hands on something real, something solid, unlike the people I thought I could trust. At that moment, Jen was nothing to me, just a mistake I'd finally erased. Jake? He wasn't my problem anymore, never would be again. And me? I was done playing nice. Done being the guy who gave people the benefit of the doubt. I'd come out of this sharper, colder, a hell of a lot more dangerous to anyone who thought they could manipulate me. My phone was straight up having a seizure with notifications. Jen sending paragraph after paragraph, scrambling to gaslight me. Nothing happened, you're being paranoid. I would never cheat. Jake trying to call, stammering in voicemails about how he needed to explain. Explain what? That he was weak? That he let this bullshit happen? That he wasn't man enough to shut it down the second it started? I didn't need their excuses. Block them both. Let them drown in the mess they made. After Juren realized I wasn't going to respond to her fucking messages, she switched tactics completely. It drove her crazy that I didn't give a shit about her the moment she cheated. And instead of begging for forgiveness or trying to explain, she went full offensive. Started this massive campaign to make me look like the bad guy. First, it started on social media. She's posting these vague stories about toxic men and controlling relationships. You know the type. Those quotes about, if he doesn't trust you to have male friends, that's a red flag type stuff. Never mentioned me by name, but everyone knew who she was talking about. Then she started telling people I was checking her phone while she slept. Me, the guy who builds security systems for a living and respects privacy so much I won't even use biometric locks. She told everyone I had jealousy issues and would flip out if she talked to male coworkers. Meanwhile, I literally hired 3 women devs last month for our company because they were the best candidates. The real crazy part? She edited our old text conversations. Like actually took time to Photoshop text to make me look controlling. She showed people these fake screenshots where I'm supposedly forbidding her from going to work events or talking to colleagues. Anyone who knows me knows I literally never text in full sentences. It's all GIFs and emoji, but people believed her anyway. You know what's wild? Some of our friends, people I've known since college, straight up ghosted me without even asking for my side. My cousin Lisa, who introduced us at prom, calls me screaming about how she never thought I could be such a monster. Like, we grew up together? You really think I turned into some controlling psycho overnight? The business stuff was the worst, though. Jen told Amy, her friend who works at this company we do lots of contracts with, that I was emotionally abusive. Amy tells her boss, who tells other people, and suddenly clients are getting concerned about working with us. Had 3 clients pull out of deals we'd been working on for months. Lost about half our friend group. These dudes I used to game with every weekend, guys who came to all my track days and helped me work on my bike, just straight up believed her. One of them even posted this long Facebook status about standing with victims and tagged a bunch of our mutual friends. Like, bro, we were literally playing Warzone together last week and you never saw any red flags? The car scene got weird too. Jen went to one of our local meets, first time in months, BTW, and told everyone there I was trying to control what she wore and who she talked to. Some of these guys I've known since high school started giving me looks at meets, like I was some kind of monster. Even my parents started asking questions. My mom called asking if I needed to talk to someone about anger management. My mom, who literally last month was telling me I needed to be more assertive at work. Dad at least took my side, but it caused this whole fight between them. Started losing sleep, couldn't focus at work. Jake's still sending emails trying to explain, but I'm not reading them. Jen's friends are messaging me saying I need to take accountability and look at my toxic behaviors. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, am I going crazy? It got so bad that I started recording all my calls and saving every text conversation. Started avoiding local spots because I didn't want to deal with the looks. Even switched gyms because people were talking behind my back at my old one. My bike in the garage became my only safe space. Can't have drama when it's just you and a wrench, you know? The worst was when one of our biggest clients, this startup we'd been working with since they had like 5 employees, called a meeting to discuss concerns about our company culture. Had to sit there for 2 hours explaining that no, I'm not an abuser, and yes, we do respect women in tech. Almost lost a $200,000 contract because my ex decided to play victim. I was seriously thinking about getting lawyers involved. Like, this isn't just relationship drama anymore. She's messing with my business, my reputation, my whole life. Started documenting everything, saving screenshots, asking people to send me the stuff she was saying about me. My brother kept telling me to just wait it out, that the truth would come out eventually. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one watching his whole life get torn apart on social media. One night, I was in the office staying late, trying to fix this mess with our clients. Got energy drinks everywhere, haven't shaved in days, probably looking like some code zombie. My work Discord starts blowing up. Everyone in our friend group chat is tagging me. I almost ignored it, been avoiding group chats since everything went down. But then I see it's screenshots of an email Kate sent to everyone. This wasn't just some regular email either. This was a full-on confession with receipts. Turns out Kate had been running this whole loyalty test thing behind the scenes. Why? Because she's apparently one of those people who thinks everyone's gonna cheat eventually, so she wanted to test Jake before marrying him. Her master plan is to get Jen to try to seduce Jake. Absolute bullshit plans. Kate had been working on Jen for months. All those networking events and professional development meetups. Just Kate manipulating Jen, telling her how Jake was more successful than me, how she could upgrade her life by getting with him. Kate shared all the texts between her and Jen. It's straight up crazy to read. Kate, don't you think Jake has more ambition? OP seems stuck in his garage lifestyle. Jen, OP's building his business though. Kate, but Jake's the real brains behind it. Everyone knows that. She'd been feeding Jen this BS for months, playing on every little insecurity, telling her I was holding her back from some imaginary perfect life. Even helped her pick out that red dress, saying it was the kind of thing Jake's type would wear. And the Valentine's party, Kate planned the whole thing. She knew exactly what she was doing, putting Jen and Jake next to each other, getting everyone to watch how Jake would react. Even the drink spill was planned. Kate had suggested it as a classic move. But what Kate didn't plan is that somewhere along the line, Jen actually caught feelings for Jake, started believing all Kate's manipulation. That's why she kept pushing even after the party disaster. Kate's texts show she was freaking out because this wasn't part of her plan. She just wanted to test Jake, not actually have Jen try to steal him. And the apartment conversation was Jen going rogue. Kate's email shows she was texting Jen to back off, saying the test was done. But Jen wasn't playing anymore. She was fully trying to get with Jake. Kate was pressured to confess because Jake found the texts on her phone and flipped out. Turns out he had no idea about any of this. He'd been trying to handle Jen's advances quietly because he didn't want to cause drama in our friend group. He thought he was protecting our friendship by not telling me. The email included screenshots of everything. Kate coaching Jen on how to dress and act, their conversations planning the Valentine's party, Jen's messages getting more and more obsessed with Jake, Kate trying to shut it down when it got too real, Jake's messages to Kate when he found out everyone who believed Jen's lies about me being controlling got to see how she was working with Kate to create fake evidence. All those edited screenshots she showed people, Kate helped her make them. The group chat exploded. People started sending me private apologies. And those friends who posted about standing with victims got real quiet now. My cousin Lisa called crying, saying she should have known better. But here's the thing that really gets me. This whole mess started because Kate couldn't trust Jake. She literally created the exact situation she was afraid of. And Jen? She threw away a 10-year relationship because she got played by someone who was supposed to be her friend. I didn't respond to any of the apologies. Just sat in my garage, working on the bike, trying to process everything. Jake kept blowing up my phone, but honestly, I didn't even know what to say to him anymore. Then Kate's email exposed everything, and suddenly, I had to deal with the business side of this mess first. Jake and I built this company from nothing, but after everything, there was no way I could keep working with him. Here's the thing about starting a business with your best friend. You never think about what happens if it all goes wrong. We had clients worth millions, contracts that needed both of us, code that only he knew how to maintain. Real mess. Jake kept trying to fix things. Showed up at the office at 7 a.m. every day, leaving notes on my desk about how sorry he was, how he should have told me about Jen's weird behavior. But bro code exists for a reason. You tell your boy when his girl's acting sus. That's just basic friendship 101. I had to call an emergency meeting with our lawyers. Spent 12 hours straight figuring out how to split the company. Jake offered to buy me out, said I could take any clients I wanted. But nah, I built this thing too. Ended up doing a clean 50-50 split. I kept our original company name and half the clients. He started his own thing. Some of our developers had to choose sides. Most of the ones I hired stuck with me, which was cool. Lost some good coders to Jake's new company. But that's business, I guess. At least the clients understood. Turns out company restructuring sounds better than my business partner let my girlfriend try to seduce him as part of his fiance's weird loyalty test. Then Jen shows up at my office one day. Not even kidding. Walks in wearing normal clothes for once. Jeans and a hoodie like how she used to dress. Carrying 2 cups of coffee like it's just another morning. My new secretary had to hire one after everything. Tried to stop her. But Jen just walked right past. She starts crying the moment she sees me, saying she got caught up in Kate's mind games and lost sight of what mattered. Says she misses riding on the back of my bike, watching me work on projects, playing games together. Actually tried to hand me a controller, saying we could go back to how things were. I just sat there listening to her whole speech about how Kate manipulated her, how she got carried away with the test, how she never meant to catch feelings for Jake. Then she hits me with, I was just playing a role that got out of hand. That's when I realized this wasn't even about being sorry. This was about her losing her perfect life plan. Jake didn't want her. Kate wasn't her friend anymore. And all those networking connections she made were gone. She was trying to go back to her backup plan. Me. I told her to leave and never come back. Had security flag her photo just in case. Blocked her on everything. Even LinkedIn because she kept trying to message me there. The whole mess actually helped my business in the end. Turns out some clients prefer working with drama-free companies. Got 3 new contracts last week. Bigger than anything we had before. Even hired 2 new developers. One's a girl who rides a Ducati Monster, which is pretty sick. Speaking of bikes, something good actually came out of this whole mess. Been hanging at this local CrossFit gym my brother goes to, trying to keep my mind off everything. And that's where I met Emma. Noticed her Sportster 883 in the parking lot one day. Almost did a double take because you don't see many gym owners who ride. Turns out she's legit into bikes, not just for show. We got talking after a class about mods she's planning for her Sportster, and she actually knew what she was talking about. Not the usual, my ex had a bike kind of conversation. She was breaking down gear ratios and talking about different cam options. She's pretty cool. Used to work in tech before opening the gym. She coded their whole booking system herself, rides better than half the guys I know, and there's zero drama. We hit up a track day last weekend. She showed up early, bike already teched, giving tips to the newbies about tire pressure. The car scene's been decent too. Those guys who believed Jen's lies all came around once the truth came out. Even asked me to judge their next show. Probably gonna take Emma. She grew up wrenching on Chevelles with her dad, so she actually gets it. And Jake? He moved to Seattle after he and Kate split. Friends say he's finding himself or whatever. Cool. Hope he finds his spine while he's at it. Business is solid now. Got my garage back. Finally moved all my tools from storage. And life's settling down. Been teaching Emma some bike maintenance when she asks. And she actually wants to learn, not just pretending for social media. First time I showed her how to adjust her chain tension, she looks at me all serious and goes, Man, if I'm gonna trust this bike with my life at 80 miles per hour, I better know how to take care of it properly. That's when I knew she was different. TLDR. Lost a fake Instagram model, found someone who can actually ride. Sometimes life has a way of working out. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. RIP my inbox. For everyone asking, yes, Emma really rides. No, it's not another test, LMAO. And no, I'm not gonna be Jake's best man at his next wedding. Edit 2. Yes, still have the street bob. No, Jen never got her hoodie collection back. Some things you just gotta let go of. Final edit. Guys, stop DMing me asking for Emma's gym's Instagram. She's not looking for followers, she's looking for PRs. Story 6. This story is titled, Golden Child Brother Stole and Destroyed. My brand new truck and my parents sided with him. So I got him arrested and cut contact with my parents. And now they are begging for help. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. If my childhood had a soundtrack, it'd be the constant echo of my parents saying, Mike didn't mean it, Eli. He's just young. Growing up in my family, you could have put a neon sign over my brother Mike's 22 male head that read Golden Boy. He could break every rule in the book, and somehow my parents, Sharon and Doug, would still manage to twist things around so that it wasn't his fault. Meanwhile, I, Eli, 21 male, was stuck as the scapegoat. If Mike broke something, it was my fault for not keeping an eye on him. If he failed a class, it was because I didn't help him study. You get the picture. Mike always had this ridiculous sense of entitlement, like everything I had automatically belonged to him too. When we were kids, he'd steal my toys and destroy them. I remember one time I saved up for months to buy this fancy RC car I'd been wanting forever. The thing was awesome, super fast, sleek design, and even had working headlights. Mike begged me to let him play with it, and like an idiot, I gave in. He smashed it into a curb within 5 minutes and laughed about it. When I ran to my mom crying, she just said, "Boys will be boys. You can't expect him to be careful at his age." He was 12, old enough to know better. By the time we were teenagers, the theft got worse. Mike would take my clothes, my money, even my bike. He once rode my bike to school and left it out in the rain for 3 days because he forgot where he parked it. I found it rusted and trashed in a ditch. When I blew up at him, my mom just sighed, "You need to share, Eli. You're brothers." Meanwhile, my parents acted like I was some kind of charity case they were being forced to support. I worked my ass off babysitting, mowing lawns, and shoveling driveways to save for college, but I still had to ask them for little things like gas money or help buying school supplies. Every time it came with a lecture about learning the value of money and how it's not our job to spoil you. Then there was Mike. The golden boy could destroy anything he touched, and my parents would bend over backward to replace it. His first car, a crappy old Toyota, lasted 6 months before he totaled it, driving like a maniac. My parents bought him another car, a beat-up Honda, which he wrecked within a year. Did they let him suffer the consequences? Of course not. They just found him another junk car, saying, "He's young, he'll learn." I didn't even get a chance to learn. By the time I turned 18, I'd had enough. After one particularly bad fight, where Mike managed to break my laptop by borrowing it, and then blamed me for leaving it somewhere he could grab it, I decided to leave. I called my Uncle Frank, my mom's older brother, who'd always been the only sane adult in my life. Uncle Frank is a retired cop, no nonsense but fair, and he agreed to let me move in with him. He even gave me his old truck, a Ford F-150 that had been with him for years. The F-150 wasn't flashy, but it was solid, a workhorse. It had a few dents and scratches from Frank's years on the job, but I didn't care. It was mine, and it was the first thing in my life I didn't have to share with Mike. That truck became my pride and joy. I kept it clean, learned how to do basic maintenance on it, and even started doing small side gigs hauling stuff for people. It gave me independence, which I desperately needed after 18 years of being treated like an afterthought. Of course, Mike hated the truck. He couldn't stand that I had something he didn't. Anytime I drove it over to my parents' house, he'd find some excuse to complain. "Why do you get a truck?" he'd whine. "Mom and Dad didn't buy me a truck. That's not fair." I'd remind him again and again that Uncle Frank gave it to me. Not our parents, but it didn't matter. In Mike's mind, anything nice I had was something he was entitled to. Things came to a head when Mike wrecked his third car. He was driving like an idiot, as usual, and smashed it into a street pole. He showed up at my parents' house the next day, acting like the world had ended. "What am I supposed to do now?" he complained. "I need a car to get to work." My mom looked at me like I was holding the solution to all of life's problems. "Eli, why don't you let your brother borrow your truck? He really needs it." I didn't even hesitate. "No." Mike's jaw practically hit the floor. "What do you mean, no? You don't even use it all the time." "It's my truck," I said, "and I'm not letting you wreck it like you wrecked your other cars." Cue the guilt trips. My mom started in with, "Eli, he's your brother. Family helps family." My dad chimed in, "You're being selfish. You can take the bus for a few days." But I wasn't budging. That truck was my livelihood. I used it to get to work, to run errands, and for my side gigs. Letting Mike drive it would be like handing him the keys to my life and watching him smash it into a wall. I refused. Mike sulked for days, and my parents gave me the cold shoulder, acting like I'd just committed a federal crime by saying no. Honestly, I was starting to feel guilty, even though I knew I was right. That's what they were good at, making me feel like the bad guy even when I was the only one being reasonable. I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. Mike wasn't the type to take no for an answer, and my parents weren't the type to hold him accountable. What happened next was the start of a disaster I'll never forget. I should have known Mike wasn't going to let it go. The thing about him is that he doesn't hear no the way normal people do. To Mike, no just means try again later, or figure out how to get around it. I didn't see it at the time, but when he wrecked his third junk car and I refused to lend him my truck, he wasn't defeated. He was planning his next move. A few days after our argument, I was leaving work and heading to the parking lot. I always parked my truck in the same spot, a little further out where fewer cars would be around to ding it. But when I got there, my truck was gone. At first, I thought maybe I'd parked somewhere else and just forgot. But after walking the entire lot twice, it hit me. Mike. I don't know how, but I knew. I called him immediately. He picked up after a few rings, sounding way too casual. "Hey bro, what's up? Where's my truck, Mike?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady even though I was seeing red. "Oh, don't worry about it. I just borrowed it for a bit. I'll bring it back soon," he said, like it was no big deal. "Are you kidding me? Bring it back right now, or I'm calling the cops." "You're overreacting," he scoffed. "It's just a truck." I hung up and started pacing. How the hell had he even gotten into my truck? I always kept the keys with me, and there was no way he'd hotwired it. Mike wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind. That's when I remembered something I'd read online about spare keys. Some models of F-150s had keys that were easy to replicate if you knew the VIN number. The realization made my blood boil. Mike had actually gone out of his way to buy a key just so he could steal my truck. About 30 minutes later, he pulled into the lot, grinning like this was all some hilarious prank. My truck was filthy, mud splattered all over the sides, fast food wrappers littering the passenger seat, and a faint smell of cigarettes in the air. Mike climbed out like he'd done me a favor. "See? No harm, no foul," he said, tossing me the keys. I lost it. "What the hell is wrong with you, Mike? You stole my truck. You trashed it." "Relax, it's not a big deal," he said, shrugging. "I needed a ride to work. You weren't even using it." "Are you insane?" I snapped. "You don't get to decide when I'm not using my truck. You have no idea how much I rely on it." At this point, a couple of my co-workers were walking by, and I could tell they were trying not to stare. Great. On top of everything else, Mike was making a scene and embarrassing me in front of people I work with. I told him to leave, but not before making it crystal clear. If he ever touched my truck again, I'd call the cops. Mike just laughed and walked off like I was joking. That was the thing about him. He never took anything seriously. He always assumed that if he pushed hard enough, someone else would clean up his mess. That night, I called Uncle Frank and told him what happened. I was half expecting him to lecture me for not calling the cops right then and there, but instead, he just sighed. "I'm not surprised," he said. "Your brother's been getting away with this crap for too long. You've got to set some boundaries." He offered to help me install a GPS tracker in the truck, just in case Mike tried something like this again. Frank wasn't the type to say things like, "I told you so," but I could tell he was thinking it. Next time, don't even call him. Just call the cops. He needs to learn there are consequences. The next morning, I spent a good 2 hours cleaning the truck. The mud was caked on so thick that it looked like Mike had driven it through a swamp. The interior was just as bad. Fast food grease stains on the seats, soda spills on the floor mats, and the cigarette smell that wouldn't go away no matter how much air freshener I used. It felt like a personal violation. That truck wasn't just a vehicle to me. It was my independence, my way out of the dysfunction I'd grown up with. And Mike had treated it like garbage. When I got home, my mom called. I thought maybe she'd heard about what happened and wanted to apologize, but of course I was wrong. "Eli," she started, in that tone she always used when she was about to scold me. "Mike told me you yelled at him last night. Was that really necessary?" "Are you serious right now?" I asked. "He stole my truck, Mom." "He borrowed it," she corrected, "and he said he brought it back. You didn't need to make such a big deal about it. He didn't borrow it. Borrowing implies permission. He stole it, and he trashed it." "You're being so dramatic," she said, sighing like I was the problem. "You know how hard things have been for him lately. He's your brother, Eli. Family helps family." I hung up on her. I couldn't deal with the mental gymnastics anymore. No matter what Mike did, they always found a way to justify it. And no matter how much I stood up for myself, they always made me feel like I was the bad guy. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Mike avoided me, probably because he didn't want to deal with another argument, and my parents gave me the silent treatment. Part of me thought maybe they'd finally realized I wasn't going to roll over anymore. But the truth was, they were just waiting for the next opportunity to put Mike's problems on my shoulders. Uncle Frank's advice was starting to make more sense. If Mike ever pulled something like this again, I wasn't going to argue or negotiate. I'd call the cops and let him deal with the fallout. What I didn't realize was that the next time Mike took my truck, things would escalate far beyond what I could have imagined. By the time Christmas rolled around, things between me, Mike, and the rest of the family were still tense. After the whole stolen truck fiasco, Mike had been avoiding me, and my parents were giving me their usual cold shoulder. But it was Christmas, and like every year, I still showed up to the family gathering. I wasn't there for them. I came for my cousins, my Uncle Frank, and the food. The day started off fine enough, but it didn't take long for the cracks to show. As soon as I walked through the door, my mom gave me one of her passive-aggressive greetings. "Oh, Eli, you made it. I wasn't sure you'd show up after all the drama this month," she said, loud enough for everyone in the living room to hear. I ignored her, dumped my coat on the nearest chair, and headed straight for the kitchen. Frank was already there, sipping coffee and chatting with Aunt Linda. "Merry Christmas, kid," he said, giving me a firm pat on the back. He must have seen the irritation on my face because he leaned in and muttered, "Let it roll off. Don't let her get to you." The day dragged on with the usual holiday chaos. Kids running around, aunts and uncles arguing over politics, and my mom sneaking in little digs whenever she thought no one was listening. "Eli's gotten so protective of that truck," she said to one of my cousins. "It's like he thinks it's made of gold." I clenched my jaw but stayed quiet. No point in starting a fight over Christmas dinner. Mike, on the other hand, was acting unusually quiet. He stayed glued to his phone most of the day, barely making eye contact with anyone. It felt off, but I figured he was sulking because I'd shut him down so hard last time we spoke. I didn't care. I was happy to have him stay out of my way. As the evening wore on, I noticed something odd. My truck keys, which I always kept clipped to my belt loop, were missing. At first, I thought maybe I'd dropped them somewhere, so I started retracing my steps. I checked the kitchen, the living room, even the bathroom, but they were nowhere to be found. That's when the dread started creeping in. I stepped outside, and sure enough, my truck wasn't parked in the driveway where I'd left it. I felt my stomach drop. Pulling out my phone, I opened the GPS tracker app. The little dot that represented my truck was already a few miles away, moving fast. I stormed back inside and called Mike. "Where's my truck, Mike?" I demanded. He didn't even try to deny it. "Relax, bro. I'm just picking up a friend. I'll bring it back in, like, an hour." "You stole my truck again?" My voice was loud enough to make everyone in the room stop what they were doing. "It's not stealing if we're family," Mike said, shrugging. "Don't be so uptight. It's Christmas." Before I could respond, Frank walked in, immediately sensing the tension. "What's going on?" he asked. "Mike took my truck, again," I said, practically shouting. Frank's jaw tightened, but before he could say anything, my mom swooped in. "Oh, come on, Eli, it's Christmas. Can't you just let it go for one day?" "No, I can't let it go," I snapped. "It's not his truck, and he has no right to take it." Frank gave me a nod and pulled me aside. "Check the tracker. Let's see where he's headed." I opened the app, and that's when I noticed something terrifying. The truck's dot had stopped moving, and it was in the middle of a highway exit ramp. I immediately called Mike, but he didn't pick up. The third time I tried, he finally answered. "What now?" he said, sounding annoyed. "Where are you? The tracker says you're on the highway." There was a pause, and then his tone shifted. Yeah, about that. I kinda lost control on the ice. The truck's fine, though. It's just stuck in a ditch." "You what?" I yelled, making no effort to hide my fury. Everyone in the room was staring now. Mike mumbled something about the roads being bad and hung up. I threw on my coat, grabbed Frank, and headed for the door. "We're going to get my truck," I said, ignoring my mom's half-hearted, "Be nice to your brother." When we got to the scene, my truck was nose-deep in a snowbank. The front bumper was crumpled, the left headlight shattered, and the grille was bent beyond recognition. Mike was standing by the side of the road, his arms crossed like this whole thing was somehow my fault. "It's not that bad," he said as I stepped out of the car. "It's just cosmetic." "You wrecked my truck," I said, through gritted teeth. "What the hell were you thinking?" "The roads are icy," he shot back. "It's not my fault." At that moment, a police cruiser pulled up behind us, lights flashing. I wasn't surprised. Someone probably called it in. The officer stepped out, looked at the truck, then at Mike. "What happened here?" he asked. Before Mike could say a word, my mom and dad pulled up in their van, rushing over like they were here to save the day. "Officer, this is all a misunderstanding," my mom started. "Eli was driving and—" "Don't even start," I cut her off. "Mike stole my truck. I have the GPS logs to prove it." The officer raised an eyebrow and turned to Mike. "Is that true?" Mike stammered, but Frank jumped in. "He's been drinking too. You might want to check." Sure enough, they gave Mike a breathalyzer, and he failed. He was cuffed on the spot for driving under the influence and driving on a suspended license. My mom started wailing, begging the officer to be reasonable, but Frank shut her down. "Enough, Sharon. Let him face the consequences for once." I stayed silent as they loaded Mike into the cruiser. My truck was pulled out of the ditch, but the damage was done. As we drove back to the house, Frank glanced over at me. "Next time, don't wait for him to screw up. Call the cops the moment he pulls this crap." He was right, but this was just the beginning. Mike wasn't done causing chaos, and I was far from done dealing with it. The ride back to the house after Mike's arrest was dead silent. My parents sat in the front of their van, probably stewing over how unfair it was that Mike got arrested. Frank and I were in the back seat, and he looked as calm as ever. That's one thing about Frank. Nothing rattles him. But me? I was pissed. Not just at Mike, but at my parents for enabling him for so long. They hadn't said a word to me, but I knew what was coming. The moment we walked through the front door, my mom spun around, her face red with anger. "How could you let this happen to your brother?" she hissed. I stared at her in disbelief. "Let this happen? He stole my truck, wrecked it, and was drinking while driving on a suspended license. That's on him, not me." "He's your brother," she snapped. "You should have handled this privately, not dragged the cops into it." Frank stepped in before I could explode. "Sharon, your son broke the law. Multiple laws. This isn't something you can sweep under the rug." "Don't talk to me like I don't know how to handle my own children, Frank," she shot back. "You've always played favorites with Eli, making Mike look like the bad guy." Frank laughed dryly. "Mike doesn't need help looking like the bad guy. He does that just fine on his own. Before she could respond, my dad chimed in. Look, let's all calm down. Mike made a mistake, but we're family. We need to stick together. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Stick together? You've been covering for him his entire life. You're not helping him. You're enabling him. My dad shook his head like I was the one who didn't get it. He's had a rough time, Eli. You wouldn't understand. Life's been harder for him. Harder for him, I scoffed. He's been handed everything while I've had to work for everything I have. And look where it's gotten him. Arrested. Again. Frank raised a hand. Enough. This isn't going anywhere. Eli, go cool off. Sharon, Doug, you need to take a long, hard look at how you've been handling Mike, because the cops aren't going to let him off so easy next time. I didn't bother waiting for their response. I grabbed my jacket and went out to the garage to check on my truck. It had been towed back while we were still at the station, and seeing it up close made my blood boil all over again. The front bumper was mangled, the left headlight smashed, and the grille looked like it had been hit with a sledgehammer. The interior wasn't much better. Mud everywhere, and that same stale cigarette smell Mike had left the last time. It's just cosmetic, Mike had said. Like that was supposed to make it okay. The next day, I got a call from Mike. Somehow, he'd managed to get access to a phone from the county jail. I let it ring a few times before picking up. What do you want? Eli, I'm so sorry, man, he said, his voice trembling a little. This was all just a misunderstanding. I rolled my eyes. A misunderstanding? You stole my truck, wrecked it, and got arrested for a DUI. What part of that is confusing? He sighed. Look, I screwed up. I know that. But I need your help. Here it was, the real reason he called. What do you want, Mike? Bail me out, he said, as if it were the most reasonable request in the world. Mom and Dad don't have the money and... No, I cut him off. I'm not bailing you out. Eli, please, he begged. I can't stay in here. It's awful. These guys, they're rough. Maybe you should have thought about that before you stole my truck, I said coldly. You're on your own. I hung up before he could respond. A few minutes later, my mom called. Eli, you need to bail your brother out. Why can't you or Dad do it? I asked. We don't have that kind of money right now, she admitted. You know we've been helping him get back on his feet. I laughed bitterly. Helping him? You mean enabling him? Number, I'm done. Eli, don't be like this, she pleaded. He's your brother, and he's a grown man who needs to face the consequences of his actions, I said. Don't call me about this again. I hung up and blocked her number for the rest of the day. Later that evening, Frank came by with some news. So, turns out Mike's not just looking at a DUI. He's also facing charges for driving on a suspended license, reckless driving, and theft. Theft? I asked, surprised. Yeah, Frank said with a shrug. Technically, he stole your truck, and since you didn't give him permission, the cops added it to the list. For a second, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I thought about all the times Mike had taken advantage of me, all the excuses my parents had made for him, and all the crap I'd put up with. Good, I said. Maybe this'll finally teach him a lesson. Frank gave me a small nod of approval. We'll see. Knowing your parents, they'll try to smooth it over. Sure enough, my parents did just that. Over the next week, they scrambled to pull together money for Mike's bail, borrowing from family and even dipping into their retirement fund. When they finally got him out, he came straight to their house, looking like he'd been through hell. Mike didn't say a word to me when I stopped by to grab some things I'd left in their garage. He just sat on the couch, staring at the floor. Part of me wanted to believe he'd finally learned his lesson, but deep down, I knew better. The fallout from Mike's arrest came fast and hard, and for once, I wasn't the one cleaning up his mess. He'd been charged with driving under the influence, driving on a suspended license, reckless driving, and theft. My parents did their usual scramble to shield him from the consequences, but this time it wasn't enough. The court wasn't buying their excuses. Mike's legal troubles piled up like snow in a blizzard. The judge didn't go easy on him, and while Uncle Frank had managed to get the DUI reduced to reckless driving, the rest of the charges stuck. Between court fees, fines, and mandatory probation check-ins, Mike was looking at thousands of dollars in penalties. The financial side of things hit Mike harder than the legal consequences. Now, with his license suspended and no real way to pay off his debts, the cracks in his entitled facade started to show. At first, Mike tried to lean on my parents to foot the bill for everything, like he always did, but even their resources were running dry. They'd already spent most of their savings bailing him out, and when he hit them up for cash to cover his probation fees, they finally put their foot down, sort of. Mike, we can't keep doing this, my mom said one evening, when I stopped by to pick up some of my tools. She was sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of bills in front of her, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen her. We've already borrowed from your Aunt Linda just to keep up with your court costs. Mike, sitting across from her with his arms crossed, looked annoyed. So what am I supposed to do? I can't work without a car, and I can't pay the fines if I'm not working. Well, my dad chimed in, trying to be the voice of reason. Maybe it's time to sell some of your things. The look on Mike's face was priceless. You'd think they just asked him to sell a kidney. Seriously? You want me to sell my stuff because of one little mistake? It wasn't one mistake, Mike, I cut in from the doorway. It was a series of bad decisions that got you here. Maybe it's time you face the consequences. He glared at me but didn't say anything. It was clear he didn't have a leg to stand on. Over the next few weeks, Mike's financial situation got worse. With no income and no car, he was forced to take a part-time job at a local pizza place as a delivery driver. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mike, the self-proclaimed golden boy, reduced to delivering pizzas on foot and borrowing my parents' ancient minivan when absolutely necessary. He hated every second of it. One time, when I was visiting Uncle Frank, Mike showed up to drop off a pizza order. The look on his face when he saw us was worth every headache he'd ever caused me. Frank gave him a little wave and said, "Good to see you working, Mike. Keep it up." Mike mumbled something under his breath and practically sprinted back to the minivan. I couldn't help but laugh. For the first time in his life, Mike was being humbled, and I was here for it. Despite everything, my parents couldn't fully let go of their golden boy. They continued to make excuses for him, even as they struggled to cover their own bills, thanks to all the money they'd thrown at his legal troubles. "Your brother's trying his best," my mom said one day when she called me, clearly fishing for sympathy. "You don't understand how hard this has been for him." "Hard for him?" I said, incredulous. "It's been hard for you because you keep cleaning up his messes. Maybe if you let him deal with this on his own, he'd finally learn something." "You don't know what it's like to have a child in trouble," she shot back. "You'd do the same thing if you were a parent." "No," I said firmly. "I wouldn't, because I'd raise my kid to take responsibility for their actions. Something you've never done with Mike. I'm that shut her up, at least for a moment. But I knew it wouldn't last. My parents were too deep in their enabling ways to change now." One evening, Mike showed up at my place unannounced. I opened the door to find him standing there, looking sheepish. "Can we talk?" he asked. I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Mike?" "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he said, his voice unusually quiet. "For everything. Taking your truck, wrecking it, getting you caught up in my mess." For a moment, I almost believed him. But then he added, "So, I was wondering if you'd be willing to lend me some money, just to get me back on my feet." I laughed bitterly. "Are you serious? After everything you've put me through, you think I'm just going to hand you money?" "It's not like that," he said quickly. "I'd pay you back. Like you paid Mom and Dad back for all the money they've spent on you?" I shot back. "Mike, the answer is no. And don't bother asking again." His expression darkened. "You don't have to be such a jerk about it. Maybe if you'd learned how to take care of yourself years ago, you wouldn't be in this mess," I said. "This is your problem, Mike. Figure it out." He stormed off, muttering under his breath, and I slammed the door behind him. I was done. Done with Mike, done with my parents, and done with being dragged into their chaos. As Mike continued to struggle with his financial and legal troubles, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. For once, I wasn't the one cleaning up his mess. I wasn't the one being blamed for his failures. He was finally being forced to face the consequences of his actions, and it felt good. Karma has a funny way of catching up to people, and it looks like Mike's finally getting his share. The fallout from Mike's antics didn't just hit him. It was like the entire family was falling apart, and I was the only one ready to walk away from the mess. My parents were struggling financially after bailing Mike out and covering his court costs, but instead of holding him accountable, they doubled down on their enabling ways. Meanwhile, Mike was still playing the victim, trying to weasel out of every responsibility like usual. It all came to a head one evening when my mom called me, asking for another favor. I picked up the phone, already bracing for what was coming. "Eli, we need to talk about Mike," she started in that tone that always signaled she was about to guilt trip me. "What about him?" I said, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. "Well, he's been having a really hard time," she said. "You know, with everything going on, the legal trouble, the job situation, we were hoping you could, I don't know, maybe let him stay with you for a little while, just until he gets back on his feet." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you kidding me?" I asked. "After everything he's done, you want me to take him in?" "It's not like that, Eli," she said, sounding exasperated. "He just needs a little support right now. He's your brother." I let out a bitter laugh. "No, Mom. If you want to keep enabling him, that's on you, but I'm done." After I hung up, I knew I was done. Not just with Mike, but with my parents too. For years, they'd treated me like I was less important, like my role in the family was to clean up after Mike and take the blame for his mistakes. I'd spent so much time trying to prove myself to them, but I realized something that night. I didn't owe them anything. The thing about cutting ties with toxic family members is that they don't always take no for an answer. My mom tried calling me a few times after that, leaving voicemails that swung between guilt tripping and outright denial. Eli, we need to talk. This isn't like you, one message said. Another one was more dramatic. I don't know what we did to deserve this, but you're breaking this family apart. Each time I deleted the messages without listening to the rest. I didn't owe them an explanation. I'd already made my decision, and I absolutely don't regret it.